Hello there, and welcome to Episode 5 of Lazor EX. This is Breakman.
And this is Flashman EXE.
Yeah, it's been a while, but we're coming back at you, hitting hard, and tonight's topic is going to be, it's a little overdone. It's been done before, but we're going to do it our own way. Tonight we're going to talk about, in our opinion, the 10 worst games in the entire Rockman Mega Man franchise.
We have to admit it was kind of hard coming up with what we really wanted to say, in essence, because we realized that, our favorite game is going to be your least favorite game. We've been over this before with forum members and forum discussions and other websites, and I know it's just been done to death, but nonetheless, one of the things I'm getting so sick of is having people coming up to me and saying, I thought Battle Network 6 was your favorite Battle Network game, and I'm like, when did I ever say that? And they're like, well, I assumed that about you because it's what I want your favorite game to be in my mind, I naturally assumed that.
Oh, don't get me started on that. Seriously, it'll happen inevitably. That's one of the horrendous yet great things about the net is that people can, get together and be like, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, if you don't like what everybody else does, you're considered to be a freaking freak,
Absolutely. Why be an outcast just because you have a different opinion? Now, of course, this can be taken to bad extremes. I mean, if you're a Harry Potter hater, don't go into a Harry Potter message board of fans and say, I hate Harry Potter, but we can still be friends, because that's just asking for trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, well, it just goes without saying that no matter what your opinion is, there's going to be someone to disagree, and unfortunately, such is the case on the internet. But we're going to try our hardest to present our opinions here on these games, while being as, non-confrontational as we can, but hey, this is us, and we're being honest.
Yeah, we're being honest. I mean, because some of these games just, in our opinion, they flat out stink. I mean, that's just our opinion. You can take it with a boulder of salt, but it still stands to say that we don't like these games. So we're going to say that we don't like these games, and you're just going to have to accept that.
Agreed. And it's interesting because some of the games that made this list are actually games that we don't necessarily hate. Like, they may be games that we have a soft spot for, but we have to mention them because whether or not we like them, we have to admit that they're not very good games.
One of these games, in fact, is a personal favorite of mine, and it still managed to land a spot on the list, so...
Yeah, so keep that in mind when you turn around and decide that we're the antichrists of the interwebs.
Antichrists might be a little much, maybe more like Hitlers or something. We're not Nazis, okay? We just don't like these games, and yeah.
So without further ado, shall we get into the list?
Yeah, let's start with spot number 10. Let's go ahead and get this one out of the way because it's pretty much like signing a death warrant.
Yeah, I know that, a lot of people I hear actually got into the Mega Man series as a whole on this game, which I find absolutely, just oddball. Yeah, appalling almost, because it's not a very good game to be starting on, both because of where it of where it takes place in the timeline, and just because it's not that great a game in the first place. It was hyped beyond, reason when it came out, but I just can't understand why someone would choose this game to start out. And we are, of course, talking about Rockman EXE or Mega Man Battle Network, whichever you prefer. Game number 6, Gryga, Falzar, whichever version, both versions, EXE 6.
Battle Network 6 is the end of the Battle Network series, and to the best of my recollection, it's the only, except for maybe possibly 04, it's the only Mega Man game which is actually officially sanctioned by Capcom to be the end of that series, and all of the other series have kind of paused or ended on cliffhangers. This one actually comes out and says, the end of this. This is it. This is the end of the series. There will be no more of these, or at least that's what it heavily implies. The Battle Network series is arguably the most popular of the Rockman franchises. There are hundreds, we've been over this before, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of Battle Network and EXE-related fan sites on the internet, news groups, message boards, chat rooms. It's a very popular representation, and it's kind of like the poster child of the Mega Man series. But nonetheless, I think that the game series ended on a sour note with Battle Network 6. It's of my personal opinion that the music in this game is very good, the graphical representation is phenomenal. As far as polish goes, Battle Network 6 hasn't made. I mean, it's definitely, just as far as impressive-looking games go, it's one of the best.
Oh, I absolutely 100% agree with you there. I mean, as far as overall presentation, the game looks spectacular. I mean, like, the music is very... To go back to the music, you know, it's very reminiscent to me of, like, the first 3 EXE games, and how you felt listening to those tracks while going through the game. And, you know, the graphics are staying pretty much on par with EXE 4 and 5, the style that they took for those games. But, you know, overall, as far as the direction the plot took in that game, and even some of the, just like some of the art cues they took for, like, internet areas, and even Cyber City as a whole, it just didn't feel right. And although the game wasn't by any means really bad, it just did not feel like it belonged. It felt very out of place throughout the whole game. I mean, I was playing the game and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. This happened. That's really cool. And I was basically telling myself, yeah, I like this, but the whole time it just felt forced. It didn't feel right. You know what I'm saying?
It really felt like, the game felt like it was almost a new direction for the Battle Network series rather than the grand finale. It felt almost like, oh, wow. It was like it was gearing the Battle Network series up to transition to the DS, and instead, it was just, that's it. Okay, here you go. All these new graphics, new chips, this new cross system, all of these new ideas and concepts. All right, get excited. Okay, it's over.
Wait, what?
I mean, the end of a series is not a good spot to introduce new concepts. I'm sorry. They could have carried over the Soul system from Battle Network 5, and it would have made a lot more sense to end on that note than with all of the changes that they made. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. So
no, I completely agree. I mean, personally, I love the cross system because it takes the best of style changes and the Soul system and puts them into one, and that's what's really great about it. Unfortunately, I completely agree in that the last game in this series was, you know, it's not a very good place to introduce something as, you know, something as good, as great as that, because we're not going to see it again, and furthermore, the ending wasn't even that great in the first place.
They're getting our hopes up for nothing.
Yeah. That's
what it felt like to me. And as far as the game goes, the characters in it, they just kind of, they didn't fit. They didn't fit the Battle Network feel. It's like, okay, you've got most of the characters in Battle Network 6 are just generically recycled. Okay, yeah, I recognize like Elec Man and Tomahawk Man and Heat Man and Aquaman. You know, they recycled older characters, sure, but the newer ones didn't really look like they fit in the series. They kind of seemed like they were just sort of shoved in there as like a, I don't know. They didn't fit. The art style didn't fit. It just feels, honestly, it feels out of place in the Battle Network series. And one of the things I really dislike about Battle Network 6, unfortunately, and I guess this really isn't the game's fault so much as the fault of its fans, but a lot of people seem to think that Battle Network 6 is the competitive standard for the Mega Man Battle Network games. And I have to say, you know, it's like people look at Battle Network 6 kind of like a lot of newcomers to the Pokemon series. I'm guilty of this because I started my Pokemon training career on Diamond and Pearl. I played a little bit of Green 2 years ago, but I never really got into it. And with Diamond and Pearl, that's really where I got started. So I can understand the competitive standard with Diamond and Pearl because it's got Pokemon in it that weren't in previous games, but it has Pokemon carried over from previous games, so that makes sense to me because it's basically just like a expansion pack for the series. Battle Network 6, on the other hand, deleted a lot of the concepts that the first 5 games had. Obviously, not all of the characters and battle chips carry over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differences, like the being able to build a folder based off of chip megabyte capacity. A lot of really odd concepts were introduced in Battle Network 6, and as a result, I don't feel like it's the game that everyone should focus on, because honestly, I think there are just better Battle Network games than Battle Network 6. That's my opinion.
I completely agree, and besides, like you were saying, the new it being considered the gold standard for competitive net battling, like, I'm with you that I 100% disagree with that. I mean, all the new things that were introduced in BN6, they're exclusive to just that game. The other games, like for example, EXE 1 through 3, more so 2 and 3, they pretty much follow, with a few exceptions, the exact same way that folders are built and carried out. The only real big difference is Megas and Gigas, as well as the Navi customizer between Battle Network 2 and 3, but otherwise they function very, very similarly. What with the the styles and the rules of folder construction and just overall.
That's one of the things I like about Battle Network 2, for that matter. And as much as I hate to say this, I have to blame my personal favorite of the Battle Network series for the introduction of this concept. Battle Network 2 didn't have the Navi customizer, so the cap was 1,000 hit points for either side.
Yeah.
While that made people who were using gate magic folders kind of cheesy, I have to step forward and say, I am of the opinion that Battle Network 2 is, if any of the Battle Network games are the gold standard for competitive net battling, let it be spoken that my opinion is definitely, by far and away, Battle Network 2, because it just seems to be the most fair. You didn't have the Kaizo system, you didn't have the Navi customizer system, you didn't have dark chips, you didn't have soul unisons, you had your set cross, and it was pretty much Prediction City. That's what made Battle Network 2 flow. I really don't think that I don't think that the later Battle Network games should really be setting that bar for competitive, because if you put upgrades like super armor and float shoes and all of those in your Navi customizer, then you have to forego putting hit points in. If you put huge hit point blocks in, you'll be able to sponge more damage, but at the cost of having virtually no latent abilities. And so to me, I think that's kind of frustrating, because while it allows for a greater feel and customization, if you're playing the Japanese games and the opponent is using an e-reader, or if you're playing somebody who's Game Shark e-reader card support onto their American copy, I feel like that's something that it's not a problem in Battle Network 2, because you don't have any of the unnecessary junk to burden the game down.
It's just straight folder construction is really what it boils down to, because chances are the person you go up against is going to have max hit point, max buster upgrades himself. So as far as that goes, really the only difference between you two is going to be what you put in your folder and what style change you're wearing, if any.
And how fast your finger is.
Exactly, especially in a gate magic duel.
One of the other things I don't like about Battle Network 6, which is kind of why it landed on this list, even though it is at the end, so that goes to show that we at least like it.
It's not a completely bad game.
Let's preface it with, it's not a bad game, it's just, in my opinion, one of the two worst EXE games, as far as the EXE standard goes.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons why I don't like it, and this kind of, I admit, was a determining factor in putting it on this list, I hate the fact that the American copy of the game not only had maps completely redrawn, and it had the NT Warrior censoring, which was horrible. I hated all of the edits and changes they made to the American copy, but the thing that infuriated me the most, the previous two games, 4 and 5, had Battleship Gate support. why didn't Battle Network 6 have Beast Link Gate support?
I have no freaking clue. I agree with you. That was really a big ball drop.
It felt like a ball drop because, I mean, yeah, okay, I understand that those items were never going to make it domestically over here, but they put forth the effort to do it with Battle Network 4 and Battle Network 5. I think by the time Progress came out in Japan, NT Warrior was kind of already winding down over here, so I understand that the Battleship Gate probably wasn't going to be released unless it had been like a pack-in with Battle Network 4, which it ended up not being. Mm-hmm. It just infuriates me because I feel like that was something they could have done, a little extra that they could have gone, and they ended up not doing it.
You also have to think about it this way. Is that the coding and everything for the usage of the battle chip gates on the games was already in there. The only thing that they changed in EXE 4 and 5 is all they did was change the text from English to Japanese. I mean, you put a Japanese gate on an English game, and it works just fine in your native language. So really, they actually made more work for themselves in the English release of EXE 6 for going and manually taking those aspects out of the game or just blocking them completely. You know, I think you can access them with, like, Game Sharks or something. I don't know if that's true. I've never tried it. But the fact that they went out of their way to prevent you from using the Beast Link Gate in Battle Network 6, just, you know, why bother? I mean, is it really that big of a deal?
Unnecessary censoring is just unnecessary censoring, and all they had to do was translate it, and it would have been fine. A simple translation job would have sufficed, and instead we get this half-hearted, backwards attempt to blot out something that was already in the game. I mean, they had to translate, 4 or 5 lines of code? That's not that big of a deal. It's not that much text to handle, and I don't know, it just seemed like it seemed like it was it goes against Capcom's sort of unspoken rule about going the extra mile. Usually when we get something, okay, yeah, it gets a little bit censored here or there, but it's generally not absolutely horrible. It's like, it strikes me as like the way they removed the Japanese voice acting for Mega Man X6 for the Mega Man X collection.
Oh, yeah.
That, it's just like an unnecessary touch. Well, let's go ahead and picking up on that train of thought. Let's move on to number 9.
Okay, number 9 on our list. You know, speaking of, game compilations not quite living up to their namesakes, number 9 on our list is exactly that. A game compilation that we feel really fell short of the bar as far as, usual high standards go. This game, you could argue whether or not it's considered a game, but we're talking about Mega Man Anniversary Collection. Specifically, the one I'm thinking of is the version that was released on the GameCube, but you could really just envelop the whole thing for most of this.
The GameCube version, oh man, that was a... Oh. First off, you have to preface the fact that there's very distinct differences between the GameCube and the PS2 versions of the game.
I only owned the GameCube version, so you may want to enlighten me as well as to the differences.
Well, for starters, each version has a different bonus. The GameCube version has, as it's unlockable, it has an interview with, I believe it came off of G4.
It was either G4 or game trailers or something to that effect.
Something to that effect, yeah. It was basically an interview with a lot of Capcom bigwigs about the history of Mega Man. It was dated at the time when they put it on there.
It was an interview with Inafune, wasn't it?
partially, and a lot of other influential members of Mega Man's creation and dev team, plus game magazine editors and just really anybody with an opinion was pretty much in there. The interview was kind of fascinating because it was about, if I remember, it was about 10 to 15 minutes long, somewhere around there. The interview was a really nice touch. It fit with the theme of the game. The PS2 unlockable was the first episode of the Ruby Spears Mega Man animated cartoon.
Oh no, was it really?
Yes, it really was. Titled, incidentally, Mega Man Anime Episode is what it was titled. So, I'm thinking we're going to get like some kind of never-before-seen Upon a Star-styled footage. No, it was Ruby Spears, and it was the first episode of Ruby Spears to boot, which is...
Looks like Dr. Wily and his slime buckets are at it again.
I don't want any girl bots showing me up. I already did a rant about that show. I'm not doing another one. Not here, not now.
Okay, fair enough.
But... that was the first major difference. The second major difference is the PlayStation 2 version supposedly has remixed music, which is a lie. The actual remixed music they're referencing is just the music pulled from Rockman Complete Works.
So basically, Mega Man 4, 5, and 6 got their Complete Works soundtracks?
Yeah, and Mega Man 1, 2, and 3 have partial soundtracks because the music in them is just ripped from the appropriate stages. So, for instance,
like
Man...
So, did they rip them from, Power Battle and Power Fighters?
Correct, but not every track is remixed. Like, a really good example, I think, is Bomb Man is still his 8-bit theme, and so it sounds really strange when you're listening to it because it keeps switching from 8-bit to the arcade mode and back again. So you'll be sitting there humming along and you'll be listening to the remixed music, then you go to the next level and it sounds absolutely horrible because it's an unrealistic transition and it doesn't sound right. It's very obnoxious and grating. They should have not included, and that's of course if you play it in Navi mode. If you don't play it in quote-unquote Navi mode, you're basically choosing to play it as the original 8-bit versions and you won't hear that music at all. Either way, it's still, I think it's frustrating. That's just my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, but it's just frustrating to have that. I guess some remixed music is better than none, but again, it felt like a big ball dropping session. They could have done better, and they chose not to do better. I was expecting remixed music, and there was a big debacle about that. I think Protodude covered it long before this column. There was a big to-do about how they had originally remixed the music, and at the last minute, somebody decided that they didn't want it to be in the game, so they just ended up using the Complete Works stuff, and it sounded kind of hacked off.
Even if that story is true, that just goes to say, even more about the way that this thing was handled. Because, I mean, if they had that problem in the first place, where they're like, no, we don't want this to end up potentially better and getting us more money, no, you can't do what you want. No, I'm the boss. I make the Mega guys. You do what me tell you. Well, okay,
and the fact
what can we use? Here, have this disc of pre-mixed stuff from other stuff.
And of course, the fact is, Atomic Planet handled this, which they basically hacked it together from Capcom's source. I don't think Capcom was even involved in the production of most of the game, to be honest with you.
Didn't they try to basically hide their own name? Like, make sure that you couldn't even find it unless you poked around in all the corners?
Well, it's awfully hard for licensing reasons to hide the Capcom name.
No, I'm talking about Atomic Planet.
Atomic Planet.
Yeah.
I think you're referencing the X Collection.
Oh god, yeah, you're right.
I don't think Atomic Planet was involved in that. Whatever the case may be, that's neither here nor there. The point is, it was a third-party game, it was a budget title, and it ended up being disappointing. You had the first 8 Mega Man games, and you had... they didn't even bother to put Mega Man and Bass on there, which seems to me like a colossal ripoff, because they put the arcade games on there. Hey, that's great, I love those arcade games, but I don't love them well enough to have basically bonus mini-games, because that's what they really are. When you stop and think about it, that's all they are, is they're bonus mini-games.
Also,
I would have rather had the 9th canon game in the series than to have had mini-games. That's just my opinion.
But you got to think about it this way as well. I mean, the only English version we've seen of Rockman and Forte has been on the GBA, and that would have just looked horrible alongside all these other full-screen games. I mean, Power Battles and Power Fighters, you know, you have those in English because those are actually on the arcade ROMs. The English versions are on there with graphics and everything. If they were to take the Super Nintendo version of Rockman and Forte and put it on the Anniversary Collection, they would have had to have done some serious editing on that game to, you know, make it appropriate for English-speaking audiences. And there's no way that they would have gotten the go-ahead for that, you know, if this supposed rumor about remixed music and its usage thereof is any indication.
Well, that's the problem with outsourcing to begin with. I mean, Capcom didn't do this. Atomic Planet did. Capcom might have been involved in some of the production. I don't know. I wasn't there when they were making it. But
yeah.
The point is, I was expecting something. I mean, I remember looking forward to that game thinking, I can sell my NES cartridges and I can get rid of my Super Nintendo because I only have it for one game. I mean, you know, I was really excited about this compilation coming out, and I was really disappointed when that was the end result of what I got. Another nitpick I have real quick on Anniversary Collection before we continue is I absolutely, utterly despise the music quality for Mega Man 7 and Mega Man 8.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's abysmal.
Mega Man 8 just loops tracks, and
they don't even loop them at appropriate spots. They choose like a random spot in the song, and they're like, okay, that's the loop point. Songs don't even really have any proper beginnings like they do on their 32-bit counterparts. No,
it sounds absolutely terrible, because the music is not a CD track for Mega Man 8. Like, It's not like it's playing a set song and looping it over and over again. It's playing an instrumental. I guess you could call it a chip tune. It doesn't really feel like one, but I guess that's basically what it is. It's synthesized music. It's not playing from a CD audio track.
You know what it sounds like, though? It sounds like they made a low-quality wave and kind of chopped it at a point where they thought, you know, if we chop it at this other point, then we'll be able to loop it just fine. But the first time you hear it, it just sounds horrible.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good. And then, of course, you have the Mega Man 7 audio quality, which sounds
even worse.
Oh my gosh! I mean, I've played the Super. I used to have a RF cable on my Super Nintendo, and I know there's a lot of debate, but you can say that RF does sound different than AV. I mean, that's just a fact, and anybody with a set of ears can hear the difference. But it is absolutely infuriating the way Mega Man 7 sounds in the Anniversary Collection. It sounds tinny and scratchy. It doesn't... Please tell me you own a copy of Mega Man 7 and a Super Nintendo. Please tell me it sounds different than the original version.
Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes, it does. Mega Man 7 is one of my favorite classic Mega Man titles. It definitely sounds different.
That's really frustrating, because, I mean, I've said this before, I'm not a huge fan of Mega Man 7, so I only played it basically enough to beat the game, and then only occasional replaying sessions here or there. But it frustrates me when the only copy of Mega Man 7 I have currently in my possession that I can play is the Anniversary Collection, or my alternative is a ROM, which is illegal, and I don't want to download a ROM just to play a game I technically already own 2 copies of. It infuriates me that if I want to play that game and be able to play it in English and be able to play it without needing a separate converter for a system, I have to put up with horrible audio quality. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion. My alternative is to go and try to hunt down a copy of Mega Man 7 on eBay, but I don't know how much I'm going to have to pay for that just to play a game I already own. I'm sorry, I can't bring myself to do that.
So you're basically left with having to suffer through the Anniversary Collection, which, if you're playing on the GameCube, it's going to be trial and error anyway because of the swapped controls.
Oh, absolutely. There's another great topic which I can't even believe I forgot to mention. Since when has B...
Let me do this. Let me do this.
Please, go ahead.
Oh, I have so
Please.
much beef with this. Because the whole reason I bought the GameCube version of the Anniversary Collection is because I thought that an interview with the creators of the series that I'd come to grow and love, I thought that was more appealing than an episode of an anime that I may or may not have seen before. And I guess you could barely even call it anime. But anyway, the point is that I bought the GameCube version, and I go and I start up Mega Man 2, which is my favorite Mega Man game. And, okay, it's an understood thing that when you're playing a game about a little blue man in a helmet and boots and blue underwears with a gun on his hand, it's an understood thing that the button on the right side of the controller to the left is the one that make him shoot the gun thing, and the one to the right make him do the go up in the air from off the ground thing. B button is supposed to shoot. A button is supposed to jump. Why they felt it was necessary to swap the controls like that, having A shoot and B jump in the GameCube version, completely goes over my head. I cannot understand the executive decision to do this, and it makes the game... You have to concentrate on the game so much more. You have to relearn how to play Mega Man games, and you should not ever have to do that.
It's broken, and I don't mean broken in a, wow, that's broken, dude, way. I mean, it's like, it's busted, and they need to repair it quickly.
It's bad.
It is bad.
Steer away from the Anniversary Collection at all costs. It's on this list for a reason.
If you can own the original games and be privileged enough to decidedly pay more for them, by all means, please do. Yeah, if you have no other alternative, the Anniversary Collection you can go with, but don't go into it with high hopes, because honestly, you will be disappointed.
And as far as old classic games go, that leads nicely into number 8 on our list, which, it's a classic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. Classic does not always mean good. Some things just don't age well, and this game is one of them. We're talking about the original Mega Man 1 for the NES.
First off, we have to get this monster out of the way early, because it's the one thing that everybody seems to come to when they consider the original Mega Man, and it's got its share of flaws. But first off, that hideous, awful box art is that's how you're greeted by this game. It segues into, now granted, we could say, well, the Rockman 1 box art doesn't, but you know what? We're in America. This isn't Japan. If we wanted to talk about the Rockman box art, we'd be talking about the Rockman box art, but we're not. We're talking about Mega Man because that's what we grew up with as kids, and I didn't even know there was such a character as Rockman. I always thought Rockman was the Thing from Fantastic Four. I didn't know that there was...
And for a while I remember they actually called the Yellow Devil in this game Rockman. A man made of rocks.
Yes, and I didn't even know there was a Rockman character for the first year or so. I was a Mega Man fan, so first off, you're greeted... I mean, take yourself back to 1988 and visualize going into a video game store and looking at all of those awesome titles on that shelf and thinking, wow, I've got $50 and I need to decide what game system I want to blow my money on. Well, the NES looks good. Okay, it's got some great games. Let's take a look at what it's got, dude. All right, we've got Mega Man. Wow, check it out. He looks like RoboCop with like this... Wow, is that a gun? He's holding a gun, dude, and are those palm trees? Far out. Yeah, I don't think you were saying that when you were looking at that game box. You were thinking, wow, this looks like a pile of crap. old man in this bionic outfit. He's holding weird weaponry, and chances are you hadn't even heard of Mega Man until at least Mega Man 2, because the original game was, even Capcom themselves said it, the original game was a sleeper hit. It wasn't one of those games that everybody was immediately like, awesome, it's like Metroid. It wasn't an instant classic when it came out. It was, yeah, that Mega Man game. I need to check that out. Mega Man 2 comes out, and everybody's like, oh, wow, this is the best game I've ever played. Well, wait, number 2? That means there was one before it.
I gotta go check that out!
And then they ran down to their public library and pulled up the Dewey Decimal System, or if you were one of the really few fortunate people to own a computer, you could... No, never mind. You couldn't go to the internet. The internet didn't exist. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, you know, it wasn't like you could just go Google it and say, oh man, there was a Mega Man game before this. Awesome, radical. I'm going to go buy that with my 80s hair. No, you weren't doing that. And so already you're greeted with this horrible box art, and it segues into a game that doesn't look anything like the box. Okay, that's NES tradition. I mean there's a lot of games like that.
For that matter, just like if you're even, you know, I know this isn't the case for the American version, but the Japanese version, you load up and you see the title screen, you see the pudgy little blue man standing there, and you're like, wow, why did they get this and we get Captain Steroids in his blue and yellow spandex? You know?
And what gets me is how clueless that guy looks. He doesn't even look like a superhero. He doesn't look like...
You know what he looks like? He looks like a construction worker that got hit on the head, knocked unconscious, stuffed inside this fluorescently gay bodysuit, and plunked out into the middle of palm tree nowhere with a water pistol, and he's looking around like, what the hell am I doing here?
And I mean, what gets me is the colors on that art are blue and yellow. He doesn't have a single armor in the game that's blue and yellow. None of his weapon color schemes are blue and yellow. You've got this hideous, awful carnival factory sewage processing plant, Stardust Speedway housing unit in the background that I seriously don't know what it's supposed to... And it's blowing up to boot. You don't even know what it's supposed to be. And on top of the whole thing, they apparently had the ability to look at least a decade into the future, and actually probably, at least 10 to 15 years into the future, to harness my neon lights from EXE3 to slap on the floor. I mean, what are those things? Like, they look like they ripped my hat off of my head and cloned it and put them there as palm tree accessories. Are those supposed to be Metors? I mean, what are they?
I honestly couldn't say.
They're Met shrooms. And is that a tire in the back? Look at that. It looks like a tire right there, right above the tallest Met shroom. Oh, man.
It seriously looks like they had a high school art student hopped up on some form of hallucinogen designing that thing. And
that's just the box.
Yeah, that's just the box art. I mean, the game inside, I mean, the graphics were okay for the times, but, like, some things... All the NES games for Mega Man, really. I mean, some of the enemies, you look at them, you're like, what is that supposed to be? Like, for example, the green orb thing with, like, an eyeball hanging out from either side. You're like, what purpose does this robot serve? You know?
I always seriously thought those were, like, aliens or something the first time I played that game. You talking about those little jerks that shoot you down in a Lekman's level?
Precisely the same ones, yes.
Oh, I hate those things. So you've got these ambiguous and very confusing-looking enemies, and those are just the enemies. I mean, let's talk about the difficulty of that game. It's like, oh, wow.
Horrendously high.
Wow.
I mean, we've mentioned it before, but it's the only Mega Man game to not feature any sort of game-saving abilities. I don't think it even had energy tanks.
No energy tanks. no passwords, no... The only thing that Mega Man 1 had that the other games didn't was the cheap start select trick.
Yeah, the pause trick.
But, yeah, Mega Man is so difficult, and okay, there are two fewer Robot Masters. Big deal. That game invented the insulting disappearing blocks concept, which was everybody has problems with. You can say you've got them memorized. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. You know what? I never was able to get past the disappearing blocks in Iceman stage without using the magnet beam.
And even if you did have the layout of those completely memorized, it doesn't do a crap load of good when you've got enemies flying at you like those blasted flying propeller penguins of death.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and those little guys that I don't even remember what they're called. Somebody called them something a while back, and I don't even remember what they're called. The little guys that hang out on the bottom floor, and they look like a landmine with spikes on it, and you can't hurt it. It's invincible unless you have like the thunder beam or something. You can't hit it.
Oh, I know the
because
type. Yeah.
I hate those. Those are so horrible.
At least in Powered Up, if you had Roll or Proto Man, you could blast through those with the greatest of ease, but not so in the original Mega Man 1, where the game was just brutal. It's hard. It's way too hard.
I know. It just seems like whoever came up with it was not... They were not having a good day when they made that game.
No. I think they just wanted to screw people over, really.
I think Mega Man 1 is also a really good example of what a lot of gamers have come up with. They came up with the phrase Nintendo hard to kind of explain Mega Man 1, and it's sort of like you have varying levels of difficulty. You have easy, you have normal, you have difficult, and then you've got Nintendo hard. Mega Man is a Nintendo hard.
Yes.
It's kind of like a lot of older Mega Man games were that way. I mean, at least Metroid. You can't tell me that they couldn't have put a password system in Mega Man 1.
Dude, seriously.
It was just an oversight.
Yeah.
I mean, even Metroid predates Mega Man, if I recall correctly, and Metroid, the original Metroid, had a password system. The original Metroid is a long game, but it's... Overall, I'd say the original Metroid is easier than the original Mega Man.
I'd agree with that. And as far as passwords go, you have to remember that even the original Zelda game had the ability for you to save your progress on the cartridge.
So did the first Final Fantasy game, too.
Yes.
Can you imagine trying to play Final Fantasy and writing down a password? The password would be 7 miles long.
Oh, no.
It would be terrible.
Yeah.
It's like... Then you have those games that have horrendously long passwords for what would be otherwise considered a short game, but there's no excuse for why Mega Man 1 didn't have a password or save system or something to work with. It just seemed like an oversight, and that's basically all there is to it. So Mega Man 1, okay, we're picking on the first game, but I think it deserves a list on the 10 worst Mega Man games in our opinion, simply because it's not that great of a game. It's just maybe for its standard it was great, but it's not a great game.
No,
I mean,
agree 100%. No, I would much rather play. I'm sure we've said it before, but I'd much rather play one of the Mega Man Zero games for difficulty than go and play Mega Man 1. Honestly. Absolutely.
If you're going to play Mega Man 1, play Powered Up or play the Wily Wars remake.
Because at least that one looks and sounds pretty.
Yeah, looks and sounds pretty. And of course you didn't have the option to play the Powered Up remake when Mega Man 1 came out. But even still, we're talking about right now. It's a game that unfortunately it didn't age well. I mean, that's just a fact. Segueing into number 7, this is unfortunately, again, another first in a series, and being a recent release, it's probably going to offend some of you who are a really big fan of this series. I've spoken out before on it. I know this is nothing new, but number 7 is Mega Man Star Force.
Otherwise known as Denpa no Dogfist.
Yeah, yes, Denpa no Dogfist.
No, in all seriousness, Ryusei no Rockman.
Ryusei no Rockman. This game, Breakman, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on what side of the fence you sit on, has not had the luxury of playing this game yet, so...
Not yet, at least.
So, yeah, I get to pretty much do a solo rant on it. Mega Man Star Force is an example of one of those games that basically can be condensed into messing with the formula. The original Mega Man series was pretty much straightforward platform game goodness with a selectable weapons system and all of the things that made the original Mega Man famous. Mega Man X expounded upon it, made it a little bit more difficult, added a lot more extra touches to it, but it was basically the same game. Mega Man Zero took Mega Man X and pretty much drastically altered it, added a ton of new characters, put it in a post-apocalyptic world, changed the main character, kept some of the original ideas but tossed most of them out and added some of its own, and overall made the series a lot harder. When you look at like Rockman Dash, for instance, Rockman Dash is an example of a game that also messed with the formula, and so I guess you can't really say that Star Force is the only game series guilty of doing this, but I think the difference between the Dash series and Star Force is Dash was basically its own self-contained, inspired by, but obviously unrelated to series. Star Force picks up the mantle of EXE and manages to drop it in the dirt and stomp on it before trying to actually continue with what it should be. Star Force is an example of basically why a game is better left ended than continued. For starters, the battle system is in pseudo 3D. While that really sounds cool, first-person Battle Mosaic Mega Man does not work. I'm sorry, being confined to the back row is something I don't greatly enjoy. Okay, you can say that the War Rock lock-on ability is useful. I don't think it is, because...
You know, I haven't played the game, but to me that sounds more like sort of a hindsight thing and, put in there out of necessity rather than because it's a nice option.
Well, basically what all the War Rock lock-on does is it essentially makes everything step sword. While that's a really nifty sounding idea, because, step sword is one of the great battle chips, imagine trying to use step bomb. That doesn't work. First off, the War Rock lock-on attack only works if the enemy is in the same row as you, so that to begin with is kind of frustrating, because all they have to do is step one panel to the left and instantly you lose the targeting ability. You can launch yourself into attacks, which is horrible. You basically, it seems like it was really... I would have liked the ability to have been able to move forward. Just step forward and have that. Okay, what's wrong with that? Being confined to the back row is something that to me seems like it really shouldn't have been... It should not have been done that way. They could have just made it a 3D version of the Battle Network Standard Series 3x6 Mosaic, but 3x5, everybody has all the panels. It feels like your opponents have the ability to step around and do whatever they want, and you're stuck in the back row because, well, you got unlucky. I mean, that's how I feel when I'm playing Star Force. It's just, oh man, can I be one of the other characters instead? Because my character sucks. And
so, a question for you: does it feel more like a liberation mission where you're surrounded on both sides?
It feels kind of like, basically, yeah, it kind of does feel like a liberation mission, only instead you're starting from the back row, and your opponent has 5 columns or rows to work with, and you have basically nothing. You have 3 panels.
Right.
Honestly, it feels like somebody starts off a Battle Network game area locking you. I mean, that's what it feels like. And while, yeah, you can use, like, Step Sword to jump into their area with the War Rock attack and certain battle chips that let you jump forward, it's kind of hard because, like, when you're trying to use I don't really know what they're called. I'm sorry, I'm not going to lie. When you try to use a Navi summon in Star Force, it really doesn't work because you're confined to 3 panels, and most of the Navi summons in Star Force are auto-aiming anyway, which is kind of like, okay, it feels like a waste because they're all auto-aiming or they're all confined to a set area, and
so we're going back to Battle Network 1 logic then, huh?
Basically, yeah, because it really, certain ones like Crown Thunder, it doesn't matter where you're standing when you use it, he's going to hit the same area regardless. I mean, he's just going to hit the same 5 squares no matter what part of the field you activate him from. And so it's kind of like, okay, I guess I can work with that. And it's like Ophiuchus Queen is another card, which, don't get me wrong, I love Ophiuchus Queen as a character and as a battle card. It's very useless. But 2 panels that you stand on, she's going to hit the same range, and so if you want her to hit a certain area, you have to move all the way to one side of the field to get her to hit that area, otherwise she's going to target the same 2... She charges down to, I guess they're rows, I guess they're columns, however you want to look at it from whatever perspective you're sitting at. She basically charges towards the back of the row in like a kind of like a Gridman sort of tackle, except she goes straight forward instead of zigzagging, and she hurts whatever she hits, and she leaves a trail of poison panels in her wake, it's a really cool effect. Awesome card, but it's kind of tricky to use unless you really know what you're doing. And of course, most of the battle cards in Ryusei no Rockman, talking about that for a second, okay, most of them are just obviously inspired by the Battle Network series, sure, we can go with that. But some of them feel like they took just almost too much liberty. I'm going to point out just a couple of the standard cards I'm really not fond of. Some of the cards I'm really not fond of using. There are a lot of just confusing or frustrating cards in this game, because so many of them are similar to Battle Network battle chips, and so many of them are just kind of, you're like, what? That you sit there and you use them, and I guess, I mean, you can only make so many variants on battle chips. I mean, a lot of these are just basically the same thing we've seen over and over again. Some of the ones that point out as ones I don't like, though, I'm just going to kind of list them here. I am not a fan of the Chain Bubble series. It's basically like this really strange abomination merged with the Bubble Shots and the Bubble Stars from the Battle Network 2 and 3 and 4 games, and then Battle Network 6, respectively. You fire this little water projectile that can encase enemies in bubbles depending on where they stand in relation to the original target, which, you know, that's kind of neat and kind of cute, but the damage ratings are pathetic, and honestly, there aren't enough fire enemies in the game to justify needing that in your folder, so you basically get them, and it's like, wow, it's another vendor trash battle chip. You pack it in there for Oxfire, and then you never use it again. You have, or if you're one of those kinds of people that really likes to use it on, like, say, Libra Balance or Leo Kingdom, okay, yeah, sure, but, you know, you can hit Libra Balance with Elect, too, and it'll work just as effectively.
That game had a lot of electric-based enemies, didn't it?
It had enough of them anyway, enough Elect-based bosses you'd run into. It also depends on the version you're playing, but the Elect enemies are common to all 3 versions of the game. I really don't like the Brave Sword series because it's basically they're just another generic sword variant. You use them and they feel like, wow, this is basically just a beefed up longsword. That's not. There are better chips to jam into your. I'd rather put like Big Axe into my folder because that basically it functions like Tomahawk Man, only it's a life sword. It's life sword in battle chip format, and the damage rating is high enough to justify packing it into your folder. There are some gimmicky cards like Magic Crystal, which those look cute and they are nifty. I mean, you slap down this little crystal that fires globs of elemental-based fire, depending on what version you're using. The first one is fire, the second is water, and the third is elect. They look neat, they're really cool little cards, but as far as practicality purposes go, they're bottom of the barrel. I mean, it's basically just an obstacle you hide behind that sort of kind of counterattacks and can be easily destroyed. And Another thing another set of cards I really don't care for in this series, unfortunately, are the plasma gun chips, because they're basically just V-gun and shotgun and side gun from the original versions, and they're kind of combined with zap rings. So basically, you fire it, and it's kind of like the best of two otherwise really lame chips, because the zap ring chips never had high enough damage ratings to really consider warranting a spot in your folder, and they were elemental, so they can get triggered by a trap chip, or in this case, a trap card. And they do really low damage. Plasma Gun 1 does 30, Plasma Gun 2 does 50, and Plasma Gun 3 does 70, so they're only really practical when you're fighting a water enemy character. It's a quick little attack, yeah, but it just doesn't seem practical enough to warrant a spot in your folder. And speaking of folder building in Star Force, this brings me to another discussion that I really don't like, or this is another feature I really don't like about the game. You are limited to three of the same standard cards in a folder, which is an all-time low for the series. Yeah, in Battle Network 6, granted. 3, yeah. Now, in Battle Network 6, granted, okay, you could shove there's certain like high-level standard cards like Guardian, okay, you could obviously couldn't put more than one of or whatever in a folder because of the MB rating. But in this game, it's universal. It's all the way around the board standards you can only put 3 of. But they still have the stupid Mega and Giga restrictions, so you can't put, like, 3 Taurus Fires or 3 Cygnus Wings. No, you can only put 1. Can't have more of one same Mega chips, Mega Lan. You know, you're stuck to the standards, the Battle Network, without any improvements. So yeah, if you're limited to 3 of the same standard card for a folder, which makes folder building really difficult to do.
So it's just actually even more constricting.
Yeah, it's more constricting, and it doesn't give you any of the it doesn't have the standard card setup either, where you could set a card that's your favorite and make that your default. It has the favorite system, which you've probably seen, where you get to pick your 6 favorite cards, and when you brother band with somebody, it basically drops like an extra card in their folder that lets you use, when you get a brother, it lets you use your brother's 6 favorite cards in battle. Sounds really neat. You get 6 extra cards for your folder. No, you don't, because actually what you get is a card that's a roulette, and when you highlight it, it randomly shuffles through 6 of your brother's favorite cards, picks one, and it turns into that card. So you can't even really build a strategy around your brothers, because, you know, you would think, wow, if I've got a bunch of friends, we could all put our favorite cards in our folders, and then bam, I could essentially have, 2 Leo Kingdoms. No, you really can't. You have the potential of maybe possibly getting a Leo Kingdom, but it doesn't really work that way. And of course, you can have up to 6 brothers on your brother band, and they can be a mixture of in-game brothers or real human world brothers. But I find the in-game ones more useful than the real world brothers, because generally speaking, I don't think the real world brothers give you anything other than hit point upgrades, whereas the in-game brothers give you pretty much exclusive abilities like super armor, float shoes, first barrier, and undershirt. And since there's no Navi customizer in this game, you get your Navi customizer abilities based on the brothers you have. You really want to keep the in-game brothers on your brother band, which pretty much limits you to having, and one of them, by far and away the most useful one, I think, is Kizumaro, or Zack, who's like the little Higsby Yai-looking guy. He looks like Higsby and Yai from Battle Network kind of merged together into one. He gives you Mega Class 1, which in this game is pretty much essential to have, because, as I mentioned before, the really constricting standards are you want Mega Class cards for your folder.
Wow.
And one of the things that is annoying about the game is it's kind of a plus, kind of a downer, is the favorite system. When you select your 6 favorite cards, it unicodes them. The Star Force card selection thing is really difficult because it gives you the ability to draw 6 cards a turn, but you can only draw cards, you can only select cards for your queue if they're adjacent to each other, if they're of the same type, or if they're white cards. And a white card is like a unicoded card. You can always pick it no matter what. So basically when you pick your 6 favorites, it kind of unicodes them to make them, and you can get some cards in a white background as well as the standard yellow. So you can sort of Unicode your folder, but not really, and which means you're never going to be drawing, on average, you're never going to be drawing more than 3 or 4 cards a turn. Whereas in Battle Network, you could Unicode a folder and be guaranteed 5 a turn. I didn't like that about this game. The battle system, as far as it feels like a standard Battle Network game. It's a little clunkier. It's a little. Some of the enemies, honestly, the enemies in this game actually feel, even with all the negatives about it, the game is actually, I think, easier than a Battle Network game, which is one of the things that I don't like about it, because, I mean, I was expecting, okay, when you first get into it, it's really disorienting, and you're probably going to lose the first several battles just because you're trying to play the game from a backwards perspective, and, I don't know, it's just... Star Force has a lot of little glitches and nitpicks that make it a unpleasant game to play, I think, and so that's why it landed spot number 7 on this list.
So it doesn't really have, like, a really grating plot, it's just mostly the way the game plays that makes it so not that much fun?
Well, it's got nitpicks on the plot, too. I mean, Subaru is pretty emo. He's not a very pleasant character for the majority of the game. He picks up in Star Force 2, which is kind of cool, and in fact his sprite visually changes. In the first game he's kind of frowny and mad, and in the second game he's smiling and happy, so it's kind of like a little bit of a difference there, but honestly not by much, really. Mega, or Warrock, depending on what version of the game you're playing, Omegasis, he's a kind of cool character, but... the synergy in the first in Battle Network that you felt between Lan and Mega Man, I'm not feeling that in Star Force. It's like the characters are kind of more like, they feel more like partners, almost like I don't know, I guess like co-workers rather than friends. They don't have that friendship feel that, and obviously Lan and Mega Man had been together for quite a while before they even started their virus busting career, whereas Geo or Subaru, whatever you want to call him, he kind of got thrust into it, and Geo has to take a more personal involvement because he is actually the one doing the fighting, whereas Lan got to sit comfortably back and let Mega Man do his bidding for him. But I don't know. It's just I've owned the second game. I'm playing it, and it does feel better than the first one. But I really don't. I don't have high hopes for the Star Force series. I never have. It does have a lot of positives. I mean, the supporting cast is great. The music is great. The art style looks phenomenal. It feels like honestly like an X series version of EXE. So it looks and feels great. I guess my complaint with it is that aesthetics are not enough, to me anyway, to warrant playing a game. When you're just playing it for the music and the art style and some of the supporting cast of characters, that's when you know that if you don't like the gameplay and you don't like the actual game itself, then that's why it's on this list.
So, now we're tackling slot number 6 on the list. Slot number 6 is actually quite a rather large slot. It's actually taken up by an entire game series, if you can believe that. We couldn't settle on one, so we had to go with all 4 games in the Mega Man Zero series as number 6 on the 10 worst Rockman games. So, we're kind of cheating, but, whatever.
We're really not.
Yeah, really.
The Mega Man Zero games are kind of the definition of mediocre, and that, on the one hand, they look pretty. Oh, they look pretty.
Oh, they're absolutely gorgeous.
That's one of the things that's consistent with the Mega Man games. Can you honestly say you've played a Mega Man game where you're like, oh, this art style is terrible. I hate the way the characters are animated, and I hate the music, and I hate the atmosphere? No, because Mega Man games are all about good atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So you can't knock... But unfortunately, I feel like I'm repeating myself with Star Force. Like, the game's got good music and cool-looking characters and a good atmosphere, but darn if the gameplay isn't grating. And unfortunately, the entire Zero series suffers from this.
Well, I said earlier about how some days I would rather play the Zero series, one of the Zero series games, rather than Mega Man 1 for difficulty. And there's some definite, hard, serious, heavy truth behind that, because the Zero series is collectively the hardest set of Mega Man games in the series. And I know some people like that. I can't imagine why, but I mean, it's not... I don't like playing games that are constantly reminding me how much worse I am than what they say I should be. Like, I don't need a game to consistently remind me that I'm not good enough. And that's what it feels like playing the Zero series, is that everything is just so much more difficult that I don't feel like I'm getting any better. Even when I get to a new area, I feel like I'm really getting there more out of luck than anything else, and that's not a good feeling to have.
That's one of the things, too, about this. That's one of the things about the Sonic game for the Xbox 360 and the PS3 that's been affectionately dubbed Sonic Next. That game consistently reminds you that you're a failure when you play it. You sit down and you play it, and you're like, yeah, this game is great. This is Sonic's 15th anniversary game. Looks pretty, great music, cool-looking characters. Gameplay is non-existent. You play that game, and it's brutal. It's horrible. You play that game, and you're like, oh, man, wow, this is terrible. I'm horrible at this. I sit down, I can't... I made that jump. I landed on that platform and I fell off. Why did I fall off? I played the original Sonic Adventure.
Exactly, yes! The original Sonic Adventure has better freaking controls.
Oh, and it's got a camera that makes you want to rip your teeth out when you play that game.
But it's a more playable game.
It is a playable game. Sonic Next doesn't have that, and unfortunately the Zero series is the same way. Wow, it looks great, and smells great, and tastes just like standard issue Mega Man. Once you scrape the surface off and you actually take a look at it for what it is, it's hard. The games, first off, they rip away the E-tanks, they rip away the sub-tanks, they rip away the weapon acquisition system. Okay, you get EX skills. Wow. Alright. And yeah, okay, you're playing as Zero, so I don't expect Zero's Buster to change and him to shoot saw blades instead of boomerangs. Okay, if that's granted, alright, fine, I understand that. I mean, it's not Mega Man, it's technically you're playing a Zero game. But it frustrates me because there are certain standards. That's like, can you imagine playing a Metroid game where you don't have the Morph Ball?
Oh, God.
Or can you imagine playing a Sonic game where you can't spin dash, or you can't go supersonic, or you've got... I mean, okay, yeah, the first Sonic game is like that. That's
okay,
exactly
yeah,
what
cover your tail there.
Yeah, that's what the Mega Man Zero series feels like. It's like all of the standard equipment that you get is taken away from you, and then the game's made harder to boot. So you're like, oh, okay. And then you've got the option to play it on even harder difficulty settings, and you've got the option to do all of these crazy things with it, but it's like the perfect ranking system. I don't want to go through that game and try to get a good ranking. I can't even go through that game without getting hit, and using the Cyber Elves, oh man, that's evil. You're torn with do I kill Cyber Elves in the name of justice so that I can save my hide, or do I let them live and feed them and nurture them and care for them and then just let them sit there and rot? It's like, oh, talk about a no-win situation. You either go in basically unarmed, or you take your Cyber Elves and then you feel like a cad for using them. It's not even...
It's like they make you out to be a worse person because you're trying to survive in this unforgiving environment.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if the Cyber Elves were at least rechargeable, like if you lost them for that stage and then you got them back, okay, that'd be bad enough. but you're kind of like, all right, hi, my name is Clefairy. I am a one-time use cyber elf. And you're sitting there going, okay, what do? Clefairy. And Clefairy says, well, when you use me, I am in sub-tank, and I restore your health. Wow, that's great, Clefairy. What's the catch? I die after you use me. Sitting there feeling like, wow, why don't I just go ahead and just shut this game off now and put it back on the shelf and forget I ever even bought this thing? Because basically I like being able to sit down and pick up a Mega Man game and feel like I can play it without feeling like, when you play the Mega Man games, you feel like when you play the Mega Man games, you feel like you're playing something that you can enjoy, right?
Yeah.
When you play the Mega Man Zero games, you feel like you're almost like you're playing, I don't know, like DDR or something. Like if you don't do every single step perfectly, then everybody around you is going to laugh at you, like, oh, what a knob! You didn't do the super awesome weapon charge ultra 3-star EX skill rank sword trick. Your life isn't worth living.
And that brings up a really good point too, especially when you consider buying wanting to play a game that you're having fun with. Like when if you go to GameStop and you look at the little shelf they have of the used GBA games, how many Mega Man Zero cartridges do you see there? Like you have to like scour to find any form of Battle Network, and even then it'll usually be Battle Chip Challenge because a lot of people just don't get it. Or
Battle Network 4 because it was like overprinted.
Yeah, exactly. And then you turn around and see like an entire section dedicated to like 03 and 01.
And that's because they're horrible. I mean, why would you want to play a game where, especially a Game Boy game with no two-player mode, no competitive anything? I mean, it's not like you can level up your Zero and then pit him against somebody else's Zero and fight for ultimate supremacy.
No, you're doing that against the game, and it's making you feel like crap because you're just not good enough.
Exactly, and that's why I think the entire Mega Man Zero series as a whole, while they introduced some great characters and great concepts, I think that honestly Mega Man ZX does Mega Man Zero's job and does it so much better that the entire Zero series as a whole is well deserving of its spot on this list. And
I completely agree.
I'm sure there are going to be Zero fans out there who are going to be like, I can't believe you did that. I'm never going to like you again. But,
who cares?
Yeah. Moving on to spot number 5. Oh, wow.
I know you have a particular soft spot in your heart for this one.
I do, sadly. I do because the Sonic fanboy in me forces me to like this. But
is that the only reason?
No, there are other reasons I like it. It's a novelty in and of itself. It's the only game of this series for this system. It's just a neat concept. Technically, it was the first color portable Mega Man game that we got.
True.
U.S. Gold's Mega Man for the Game Gear. Honestly, this is one of those angry game nerd, what were they thinking moments. You play this game, and you gotta be hardcore, because all it is it's like a smashed together port of Mega Man 4 and 5. And I mean Mega Man 4 and 5, this is the days long before the Battle Network series even was a gleam in Inafune's eye. It has some bosses for Mega Man 4, some bosses for Mega Man 5, and they're kind of just haphazardly piled together in this, honestly, shoveled port. The graphics are kind of touched up a little bit, but, I mean, obviously, you could tell the people that made the game really didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about the Mega Man franchise, because, I mean, when you get a boss weapon the message that pops up on the screen is, "You got bright weapon."
Oh, that was so legendary. Oh god, I remember that. It's like, what's it called?
Yeah. And the bosses that they chose to put in the game were, it's like they sat there and they looked at all of the Mega Man bosses and they said to themselves, well, we could put some good bosses in here, or, hey, how about we put like the worst characters in the entire series as far as their weapons. I mean, listen to this lineup. You've got Brightman, who has what's probably the best time-stopping weapon in the game. I say that much to my own hurt. Okay, yeah, you've got the Bright Buster, but it's not really the, and technically it's called a Flash Stopper, but this game doesn't call it that. You shoot these little bright pellets, which are weaker than the Mega Buster. They take a whole lot of shots suspiciously to bring down an enemy. It's a horrible weapon, and basically it's not even really worth using. Then you've got Napalm Man's Napalm Bomb, which is like, oh, no contest. That's one of the worst weapons of all time. It's delayed, it rolls. It's worse than the Hyper Bomb, because at least the Hyper Bomb you can sort of pseudo-aim.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I would rather take the Hyper Bomb any day.
It's like this little bowling ball that you roll on the ground and hope that maybe there's a possibility it could hurt something.
Yeah, really.
You've got the Star Crash, which is like, oh yay, generic shield weapon, get. And
well, hold on, is Skullman in this game?
No, he is not.
Okay, because we only need one barrier, thanks very much.
Well, then, of course, you get the Power Stone, which is basically another shield weapon. There's the Water Wave, which is another rolls-on-the-floor weapon. And lastly, you've got Toadman's Rain Flush, which is another cover-the-entire-screen weapon. This is like the game of redundant weaponry, and unfortunately, it feels really, really shoveled in the long run. Which is to be expected of a port, but even still, it's not really a port. It's kind of like a mashup. I don't know any other way to put it.
So would it be accurate to say that it's kind of a mashup similar to the way the original Game Boy titles are?
Yeah, it's a lot like that, only those ran on like the same engine, and this seems to run like on something that you would make like with the Games Factory.
Ooh, ouch.
I mean, Mega Man kind of moves slower, the weapon, it's the Game Gear, which is not that great of a system, I understand, and I'll consent that.
But it's arguably better than the original Game Boy.
True, and that's why But then again, this is unfortunately another example of a third-party Mega Man game that was not really directly produced by Capcom. It was licensed, outsourced, and we got shovelware as a result, so I don't know. So moving off of that one for a second, let's just jump directly to the next game, which I think you've got a whole lot more experience with this clunker than I do, since I don't think I've ever actually beaten any of the characters in this game.
Are you serious, really?
I might have beaten like 2 or 3 of them, but I don't think I've actually ever gotten really far in this one. Yeah. I can't bring myself to. I'm horrible at it.
Well, I can completely understand why, because this game is another one of those that is just hard for absolutely no reason. Mega Man X6. This game is a crapper on so many different levels. I mean, let's just start off and just get this out of the way that the music for this game, apart from like 2, maybe 3 tracks, is beautiful. I love the music in this game. The music feels solid, it is solid and good, and it can drive the van. Alright?
It can drive the van. I have to just interject that aren't we reiterating ourselves? We seem to keep saying that about all of these games. The music is good, the art is good.
No. In this case, the music is good, and we stop there. Because this leads perfectly into one of the biggest problems about Mega Man X6, is that the game obviously reuses the old 32-bit X sprites, but for most of the new characters in the game, the new Mavericks, one prime example is Blaze Heatnix. You look at his sprites, and I have no idea what they were thinking when they hired whoever they did to come up with the sprites for that character, because he looks so out of place and so horrible. I mean, the number of animation frames he has is laughable compared to like Blizzard Wolfang. Blizzard Wolfang's one of the better looking Mavericks in the set, and even he doesn't look all that great. He has a bit more of polish to him, but just overall, the Mavericks in this game look horrible.
Look at Shield Sheldon.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, Shield Sheldon is just another prime example of being absolutely lazy. I mean, he has like, 8 animation sprites, and he just floats around with his stupid shield barrier Magogger thing. That is a great example on how freaking lazy they got on the art for this game. Another great example is Infinity Mijin, who has probably...
Infinity Onion. We're calling him Infinity Onion now.
Yes, we're calling him Infinity Onion Flea. But seriously, I mean, he has probably close to the same amount of animations. I mean, and he's so... You can't even, like, his size, I mean, if you can make a Matul be as detailed as it is, you have no excuse for having an enemy that size just looking like a featureless lump of crap. And that's what Infinity Mijinion looks like.
And then, of course, while we're on the subject of characters that look like garbage, admittedly, Commander Yammerk looks great, okay?
You know, as far as his look, yeah, but again, he suffers from the same lack of animation frames.
That seems to be universal with X6. And, I mean, animation aside, we can't even say that the music and art looks good for this game, because the art doesn't look good for this game.
No, the art's horrible.
And am I the only person, maybe it's the version of X6 I own. I've got the original copy, and I've got, I have the X Collection version. Am I the only person who thinks the entire game kind of looks like it's, I don't know, like JPEG compressed or something? It looks grainy to me.
I agree with you. Like, even in the case of like the backgrounds that they use, I mean, they just don't seem up to par with even X4, or definitely not X4, but not even X5.
No.
It just overall does not look good.
And now that we've talked about the cruddy art style, let's take a moment and talk about the difficulty on this game.
Oh god. I believe I said earlier that this game was just difficult, not out of necessity, but rather out of oversight. I mean, it's running...
The entire game is an oversight. It almost feels like an unnecessary addition. I mean, you have that cliffhanger, bizarro ending for Mega Man X5, and it kind of just free falls into this...
Oh, wait, did we say 3 years later? Ha! We meant 3 weeks. Just kidding. Please buy this game.
We really don't know what we're talking about here.
Seriously. The plot is probably one of the worst plots in the X series, but I'd say that probably mainly because the translation is so god-awful horrible. It's awful. It's just horrendous. I mean, it's probably about on par with the quality of translation in, like, Zero Wing, honestly. I mean, all your base and belong to Sigmas. Raffle, raffle, raffle.
Well, it's kind of like overwriting your file. The way they spelled that, there's no excuse for that. No. I mean, I can understand the L and the R thing, but come on, that's just sheer laziness. It's not like Dr. Light or Dr. Right, or, you know, it's not something like that.
Zero, as opposed to Zello!
It's not something like that. That's just that. I mean, you can understand Sigma misspelling something because he's corrupted. Maybe that was in a joke on the programmer's end, but it's like one of the things I don't like about X6 is the way everything is referred to as an incident. It's like I am getting sick of that in translations, like that incident that one time, or the incident over there, that word is so overused. Can't they come up with anything other than incident? I mean, there are other words you can use. That debacle, that situation, that problem, that issue, that episode. No, but all they have to use is that incident. That incident. It's annoying. It doesn't fit. It doesn't flow. Maybe it's literalized versions of the translation, but the translation in X6 is it's hasty, it's unprofessional, and it's honestly yeah, you're right. It's Zero Wing bad.
Yeah, I mean, you got to consider that the game came out in Japan and was literally released here a week later.
Are you serious?
Literally a week later. It came out in the States after it was released in Japan. I'm not joking.
Wow, I did not know that. That's something new for me.
Yeah, that is the reason why the translation is so horrible. Because usually we have what, a month between releases, at the least. But no, we had a freaking week.
Usually it's a year. And it's like with the Sonic games. The Sonic games are usually released over here first, and then Japan gets them later. So it's usually our fault rather than Japan's.
But in this case, there's no excuse. I mean, I just can't believe that. Ugh, it just gets me.
It does. It's not professional.
But by far and away, definitely the worst quality that X6 has is its difficulty, which is the game's running on the same engine that X5 used, being in
which runs on the same engine the X4 used, which runs on the same engine Mega Man 8 started with.
This is true.
So it's like a videotape that's been copied off of a copy of a copy of a copy of the master videotape. It's going to lose something by the time it's been overcopied to that point.
Essentially, yeah. But the biggest thing that stands out between the X5 and X4 engines is that you can't shoot through walls anymore. That is the biggest change, and that's what makes a game that was so obviously rushed, like X6, so incredibly difficult because of the freaking nightmare virus that is introduced in X6. This thing that's supposedly going around corrupting all the Reploids to make them not good people's no mores guy, and like in X5, you have the Reploids hidden throughout the stages that you can rescue for 1-ups and stuff. But in this game, they actually give you the power-ups that X5 basically handed to you on a silver platter. If you don't save the Reploid, you don't get the power-up and ability. You don't gain the ability that you get from that power-up. Now,
which is absolutely demonic, whoever came up with that idea, because basically your skill at being able to immediately rescue something that you can't even see from off-screen determines whether or not you're going to have an easier time fighting the final boss later.
Precisely, because those freaking ridiculous-looking black, yellow, blue, red octopus
AV cable monsters.
Yes, the AV cable monsters. They go and they jack themselves into the back of the Reploid's head, and nope, now you gotta kill them. Now you can't. No power-ups for you. Try again next game, lols.
That's why you have to save before every single stage.
Precisely. And if you lose one, you quit and go back to the title screen.
I can't play a game like that. That's almost Zero Series bad.
But even if you're not going through, if you just want to go through the game and you don't care about the Reploids, the nightmares themselves are still absolutely evil because they can shoot through walls. They can fly through walls. So you're basically stuck sitting there while they fly down from somewhere above your head because, X is a lazy jerk and can't lift his cannon, to point anywhere above horizontal.
Ha ha ha!
So
I am Dr. Light. I have created hundreds of robots in my lifetime, but none of them can shoot up.
And then you have Dr. Wily pointing and laughing at him from off-screen.
In some cases, I think Tom was more evil than Albert, personally.
Agreed. But so that combined with ridiculous stage layout, some of these levels are I'm sick of auto-scrolling stages. Can we please have no more auto-scrolling stages where you're gonna die if you don't keep up the pace?
It's Bridge Zone all over again.
Yes. Oh man. Yes. No. Please no. I'm sick of spikes. I'm sick of bottomless pits. I'm sick of areas that I can't get past without one of the two armors, even though I'm going to need the other armor later on in the same stage. Horrible level layout, horrible enemy design, just serious lack of overall caring makes X6 an awful game, and that really saddens me because I wanted to like this game. I was really excited about this game when it was announced, and I wanted to like it, but it's just too horrible. I can't like it. I could like it for what it could have been, but that's like saying that, you know, maybe if you hadn't added salt to my apple pie, you know, as opposed to sugar, I would have liked it more, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like going into a restaurant and you're sitting there. That's like going to a steakhouse and ordering a steak and saying, I want my steak medium well, and they bring it back burnt to a crisp. And then they just tell you, well,
that's medium well. You know, that's how we cook it.
That's how we handle things here. And your definition of medium well is not our definition of medium well. If you don't like it, don't pay for it.
And that's what a lot of people should have done with X6, just not paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some video games should have, like, a trial ability. Like, if you don't like this video game, because you don't know if you're going to like a video game when you buy it. I mean, you can trade it in, you can sell it, but then you're just perpetuating the lie. I think the success of a video game should be directly proportional to, and I guess video games would never be sold that way. I mean, if people could play them before, buying them or something, I don't know. I guess that's what the rental store is there for. But and of course, being a Mega Man collector, I'm obligated to buy one of each video game, whether it's good or whether it's horrible.
Agreed.
That's just, I don't know. Well, moving on from Mega Man X6, we're going to continue on our steamroller of pain into the top 3 of the top 10 worst Mega Man games. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, number 3. Battle Network EXE, Rockman Tournament, Red Sun, and Tournament Blue Moon, or better yet, Battle Network 4.
This has been a long time coming, folks. You knew it was coming.
We've mentioned it too many times before. Battle Network 4 is a game we've expressed our displeasure with on numerous occasions. It's nothing new, but...
Honestly, if you're surprised by us saying this, then...
You're obviously not a long-time listener.
Not at all.
We've mentioned this in ELB, we've mentioned this on Rockman Synergy, we've mentioned this on... Pet World, we've mentioned this on...
Just about everywhere we've been.
Yeah, everywhere we go, we have to bring up at some point or another why we dislike Battle Network 4, because, unfortunately, Battle Network 4 is associated with 2 of the best things to happen to the EXE the Mega Man franchises just in general.
Those being...
The Advanced Battleships and Rockman EXE Access, which we pretty much simultaneously agree is the best season of the anime.
Agreed, 100%, absolutely.
But they're both based off of the worst game in the series. And it is the worst game in the series, and you cannot lie and pretend that it isn't. It's the worst game in the series.
Where do we start? I mean, I suppose we could... Actually, I think that this game breaks all of the rules that we've been establishing time and time again, is that, apart from the music and the art and everything being great, no, I think this game breaks those rules.
This game breaks the trend. It's the combo breaker. It's the combo breaker.
Combo breaker.
It is, because it's horrible. I mean, the game, first off, it starts in a lab somewhere
with some of the most god awful lab music I've ever heard. Yeah, exactly.
Am I in Bowser's Castle, or am I in the Mega Man game? And then you play, okay, you get past that horrible cutscene, and the first thing you notice is that, wow, this dialogue seems shoddy. They misspelled like every 5 or 6 words.
And of course, the other thing you notice is that the art style is completely changed.
Oh, yeah, and the other thing, I think the first thing you notice with Battle Network 4 is, wait, there's another one of these? I thought the series ended with EXE3.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, wouldn't EXE3 have been a phenomenal ending point for the series? But no, they had to drag it out another game.
I mean, granted, at first we were excited as hell.
Yeah, I mean, dang, Battle Network, come on, those are good games. Battle Network was like a sign of quality workmanship.
For a while there, it definitely was.
And we get this game, and we're like, okay, well, alright, first off, you got 2 versions. Huh.
Granted, we had that in Battle Network 3, but
if you know... 3, there was a distinctive reason for that. The versions were released, like, separately. The first game to come out, and then the upgraded later version, we didn't get that in America. Blue and White were released at the same time, but Orange and Black were completely different.
Yeah, exactly. If you know the story behind the Japanese versions, then you know why there are 2 versions, and it's pretty much accepted. This is okay. I don't have a problem with this.
And there was really no reason in America to buy White, because Blue had the better advantages to it and such. You bought Blue and White for completion purposes. White was the first version of the game I beat. It happens to be the easier version of the 2 games as well, I think. That's my opinion.
I agree, actually.
But moving on, I mean, with Battle Network 4, there were 2 distinctive versions, blue and red. That's never been done before. Not those colors, either. And
yeah, not at all.
No. And you're sitting there like, okay, do I buy Blue Moon? That sounds pretty stylin'. Or do I buy Red Sun? Wow, that sounds hot. You're thinking, man, I chose my first playthrough of the game, I chose Blue Moon. Because everybody said to pick Blue Moon. I later realized everybody said to pick Blue Moon because Proto Man was in it. Then I turned around, I played Red Sun and realized how infinitely easier my first Battle Network 4 campaign would have gone if I picked Red Sun. But to start off, you've got 2 versions. Okay, that's nothing new, and it would continue as a trend. I mean, the 2 versions thing is going to be a continual concept, but we didn't know that at the time. We just thought that, oh, okay, well, it's something they did in the last game, and they happen to do it this one too. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that was one of the Battle Network series' eventual downfalls and demises, because, I mean, when you stop and think about it, it's awfully hard to defend it from the wow, this is a Pokemon rip-off claim so many people have when there are 2 versions of the game being churned out every game. But we didn't know it at the time, and so we fought bitterly to protect our beloved Battle Network. And we start playing Battle Network 4, and the first thing that we should note is the music is really lacking in this game. It sounds tinny. It sounds...
I mean, even right from the title screen, it just doesn't grab you at all.
No, none of the classic tunes are recycled. The Battle Network anthem, the first 3 games had, is gone.
That was a blow.
Gone.
That was a big blow.
That was a big blow, because that was our... I mean, that game that song had been established for 3 canon games, a GameCube game, and Wonder Swan spin-off games, or wherever else it got featured. That was the Battle Network theme song. That was our beloved Battle... That's like the... It's kind of like Proto Man's whistle. It's one of those things you don't screw with. That's a standard issue.
It's seen as the definitive EXE theme song, kind of like how, even though it was only in the one game, to begin with, the Mega Man 2 title screen theme is considered to be the classic Mega Man theme song.
Yeah, it's kind of like the theme that's used in the first Sonic the Hedgehog game, which was played and composed by Dreams Come True. That song, unfortunately, due to licensing reasons, ended up later getting pulled in the sequels, but that was considered the definitive Sonic the Hedgehog theme song.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, that was the Sonic theme song, and then you've got the Battle Network theme song. It's the anthem for the Battle Network series. It's the Battle Network theme song, and they changed that. And I was disappointed because I knew that song. I knew it well. There was no reason for them to change it. And they did. They wanted to usher in the new era of network battling. So, okay, fine. All right, whatever.
Yeah, we're like, whatever.
Okay,
let's check out the actual game and see. The title screen is one thing, but let's go to the thing. Okay, we got the hometown place. Oh, they finally changed the indoor music. God, that's great. I was sick of that. Okay,
they leveled AC/DC Town and moved everybody's houses around overnight.
I still have the biggest problem with that, especially in the later games where they refer to, like, AC/DC Town in the past, and all the houses are in their new locations,
Yeah, it's kind of like, what? So you just expect me to not notice that you changed? I mean, the graphical update...
The Cataclysm happened. The Cataclysm happened.
I guess. It's kind of like they should have said at the beginning of Battle Network 4, due to budget cuts, the all-new season of Mega Man Battle Network will be taking place in an alternate dimension. It's kind of like when you watch a TV show, and honestly, I guess just the best example for it is it's what they call retconning, when they go back and retroactively change the continuity of something or retcon it. They basically they whack it with the magic stick and tell you this is the way it is now, and they just expect you to understand and accept it. Well, the suspension of disbelief only goes so far, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, I don't like the fact they leveled all the houses and shoved them into new locations. And then have the audacity in a later game to say that it was like that
from the beginning.
Years ago. Yeah, I don't believe that. So moving on from there, okay, the graphics have changed, everybody's shorter now, and they all have to conform to like this uniform height standard, which seems really kind of clunky.
And the sprites aren't nearly as detailed anymore as they used to be.
No, they look more like... It's almost like a downgrade from a console game to like a Macromedia Flash game or something.
Almost. And I understand they were trying to go for a cel-shaded feel, but it didn't look good. I'm sorry.
You feel like you're playing Apple iMega Man or something. It doesn't feel like the Mega Man you're used to. So you hit the internet, and the first thing you notice is like, oh, wow. The internet looks stupid in this game. What happened?
I don't know.
Awesome and dumb looking. It's almost like we've stepped back to Battle Network 1 again. Remember how idiotic Battle Network 1's internet looked like?
Oh, God. That and the fact that it was completely unnavigatable.
And devoid of any kind of...
landmark.
Decoration. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like... I mean, you get on Battle Network 1's internet and you feel like, my name is Homestar Runner, hosting my website. And you're thinking, wow, this really doesn't look like... This looks like my first web page or something. It doesn't look like the internet. You get to Battle Network 4, and you feel like, as you're running along the floor, you got to be careful where you step, otherwise you're going to be mugged by the Microsoft Office assistants and tooltips. So, okay, graphically and musically, the game is unimpressive. We've covered that. We'll take the game itself.
Yeah!
Does the actual game do any better as far as gameplay?
No.
No.
In a word, no.
Wow.
Moving on.
Yeah. Where to begin? Let's see. The style change system is gone. I liked the style change system. I was happy with that.
But look at this. It's so much cooler because just like the older games, those ones that like only old people remember now, you can use the guy's power. Oh, what, really? I can use the guy powers? Yeah, but only for 3 turns, and you have to sacrifice a chip to do it. Oh, well, that's kind of not as cool as it sounds.
You can't sacrifice a standard chip to do it either, because that's cheating.
Because we have elements now.
Battles with my style change set. I knew what my style change was going to be when I went into it, and it didn't disengage halfway through the battle. Well, live with it. That's the way the new games are.
Isn't it fun, kids?
And it's like, alright, I mean, okay, cool. With the power of friendship, I can overcome anything. That's swell. Want to know what else would be swell? Is if I had my style changes back, thanks. Spent a lot of time on that Heat team. I want it back.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Can't really help you there. Okay, so you got soul system change unisons. All right, that's fine. Double soul, yeah, because they didn't even call them soul unisons for the American version. Double soul.
Yeah, double unison aside, saucil onion aside. Now let's tackle the completely overhauled battle system.
You move in this game like you're wearing suction cups on your boots.
I affectionately refer to it as the molasses shoes Navi customizer part.
And it's you move around in this game and you're thinking, wow, rock seems slow. Seems really, really slow. Okay. Like this is impractically slow.
Yeah,
I
really.
Can't dodge it. Then you've got the counter system, which has been overhauled. Although it was introduced in EXE3, all you had to do was kill somebody right as they were getting ready to attack you, and bam, you got bug frags.
And you could do it with just a standard buster shot.
Even better, you could do it with time-stopping ships too.
Yeah,
which made it that much easier. Oh no, not in this game. No, in this game, when you counter somebody, you go into full synchro.
Granted, that's a cool concept.
Yeah. Which had also been established in the previous game. I mean, we knew what full synchro was to begin.
That's true. It's something completely different now. As opposed to being a plot point, now it's an actual crucial part of...
gameplay.
Yeah!
Yeah. And it's kind of like now all of a sudden entire strategies hinge on getting full synchro to work. Wait, what? But what if you can't get it to go off? Well, oh, by the way, now you have emotions. Really, Phil, that's cool. Tell us about emotions, Bray. What are the emotions in EXE4?
The emotions range from normal to not normal to whiny to angsty to...
abnormal.
My mom took away my iPod and finally to dead. No. In all seriousness, no. You got your normal state, which is Rock's default state. Then you have full synchro, which expires as soon as you use a battle chip or get hit. And what that does is it doubles the damage of the next battle chip you use. You know, it's kind of cool, but you know, whatever. Then you have anger, and that also basically that happens when you take like
full
a series.
Synchro in disguise.
Yeah, it's full synchro in disguise. There's really no other way around it. I mean, it also doubles the damage of the next chip you use, but it's triggered when you get hit like really hard in sequence. Like, if you just get smack, like 100 hit points a pop, Rock will just get seriously ticked off and go into anger. So you know, that's kind of cool. It's a way for them to give you a fighting chance to get back on your feet. And then you have, what's the next set? Tired?
Let's see.
No, worried.
Tired existed.
Worried.
Yeah, worried. There you go. Yeah, you get worried when...
It's like
when
you drop below a certain amount of hit points, certain percentage. But even then, does that really do anything adverse?
Like when a lot of your attacks miss, I don't think you can enter double soul when you're worried.
Probably.
It's kind of one of those. It's one of those things that when you're worried, it's when a lot of your attacks have missed, or you've taken enough damage, you're getting whittled down, as opposed to anger. Anger is like you just got hit by something really powerful. Worried is kind of like, we're really beginning to lose this war of attrition kind of state. Yeah. And the last emotion you have is dark, which is...
Oh yeah, technically that is an emotion, isn't it?
Yeah, it only pops up when you've used dark chips, and when you enter a dark state, you can actually get to the point where you start battles off in this state. Basically, Mega Man is in Berserker mode. He won't respond to whatever you're doing, and the dark emotion is basically Mega Man will skip around the field using chips however he likes and basically forgetting that land even exists. So those are the emotions, and they actually, while they seem like just a minor gameplay element, unfortunately dictate a lot of how EXE4 plays, and it's kind of frustrating, I think, because they really seemed like an unnecessary addition, and I don't like that gimmicky feeling of trying to set up a huge, humongous, possible one-hit kill so that I can get a good ranking when simple, strong virus busting will do it like the previous games had. I mean...
Unfortunately, in this game, it seems like they really tooled it so that you have to use the various emotions in order to get really high ranking kills. I mean, it's almost insulting. It's like, you're not good enough on your own, so you have to use our thing. What make you the gooder guy?
And here's another thing I dislike about Battle Network 4, which as I mentioned earlier, my style change of choice is Heat Team, and I've always been a team style lover. I know people who have arguments for and against every style change, some like Guts, some like Shield. I don't know why anybody would like Shield. I think it's the worst style change in existence. But there are people who like all of them, and there are people who hate all of them, and my preference was Team. In the first Battle Network game, you could put 5 of any Navi chip in your folder. Mm-hmm. In the second Battle Network game, you could put 5 of any Navi chip in your folder, and you could increase the number of Navi chips that you could put in there up to a set point, depending on how high you leveled your team style change. In Battle Network 3, you could increase your Mega Class capabilities, but you were still ended up eventually being limited to 5 of a Navi's family, one of each of their versions, because you couldn't put the same Mega Class chips in your folder more than once. So you basically went from the first game, 5 Proto Man V3s, to the second game, 5 Proto Man V3s plus additional lower-level Proto Men, to the third game, Proto Man V2, Proto Man V3, V4, and V5 if you put the Giga Class chip in there. And you go to Battle Network 4, and Battle Network 4 cuts the versions back down to 3 and adds an additional modifier onto it, which I think was just absolutely insane. They make it to where you have the default version of the battle chip, which basically doesn't really do that much damage. You have the SP version of the battle chip, which can be improved depending on how fast you delete that ghost Navi that drops it. And then you've got the DS version of the battle chip, which has its power boosted based on how many dark holes are on the field. Oh, and the only exception is you can't use the DS version unless you're dark.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, so now you're limited to 2 of a Navi's family in a folder, basically Video Man and Video Man SP. Well, that's fantastic. So basically, Battle Network 4 is highly unfriendly to Navi chip users.
I think it's also very highly unfriendly to just people that are generally just getting started on the series.
It's an unfriendly game. It really is. And I mean, I know people
started
who
on the tournament system.
Oh, the tournament system was. I know the entire game's purpose is a tournament system. Okay, that's fine. It's a nifty concept. As a plot device, it seems kind of like it randomizes the playthrough of the game so that, generally speaking, the average 2 people playing it won't have the exact same playthrough experience. They can, but it's pretty unlikely. I mean, most likely they're going to get different bosses, they're going to get different soul unisons, they're going to get, especially if they're playing the different versions of the game.
Oh yeah.
But even if they're playing the same version of the game, they're probably going to get different bosses in order. They're probably going to get just a different game overall. And I guess that was supposed to be a charm point for Battle Network 4, but instead it ended up being
monotonous.
Kind of like
it's forced replay.
Yeah.
Because you don't get all the same bosses on your first go, which means that if you want all the soul unisons, you got to keep going through it.
To say nothing of all the battle chips, which you're going to need to get into later.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, the average Mega Man game, you can generally, by the end of the game, have a pretty decent selection of the battle chips. You'll have a good mix of V1s, V2s, V3s. You'll have them in probably really pitiful codes, but you'll have a decent enough folder to take on the final boss. Not Battle Network 1, or not Battle Network 4. At the end of Battle Network 4, you're going to have version 1 battle chips, which are going to be, at best, you might have some of the relatively decent ones, but I mean, you have to fight Duo with those. And as I think we've mentioned before, Duo is not a walk in the park.
Not at all. Not the first time you fight him, most certainly not the last time you fight him, never.
No, Duo is an unpleasant fellow. Even when you're fully loaded, you still don't really have that good of a shot at Duo. So, anyway, and that's to say nothing of Battle Network 4's other many, many flaws, which we could sit here and point out all night, but
let's not say that we did and just let everybody know that if Battle Network 4 is their favorite game, then they are officially poopy faces, or something to that effect.
We apologize if it is your favorite game. I know there's only one of you listening to this, but
I don't apologize.
No, I'm saying that I apologize that you like this game, because I genuinely feel sorry for you. But I'm sorry, and I don't like this game, and I don't feel bad for saying that. I mean, you can say you don't like EXE3. Okay, that's fine. I'm not going to, unlike many people out there, I'm not going to take that as a personal insult just because you don't like my favorite EXE game. I am of the opinion that EXE3 is a superior product to EXE4. EXE4 feels shoveled, it feels rushed, and unfortunately, I cannot. I was looking forward to it. It ushered in a phenomenal wave of merchandise, and even EXE4's direct sequel, Rockman EXE Real Operation 4.5, I think is a far better game than Battle Network 4. That's just it. That's all there is to it.
So, agree, disagree, that's our story. We're sticking to it.
And with that, number 2, you knew this was going to be on here. Because
you'd have to be blind to not see this one coming.
Yeah. Wow. Kind of original, I think, because as far as I know, this was the first, or one of the first major video game mascot franchise characters to do this. I think this even may possibly predate Mario's own attempt at it, but number 2, Mega Man Soccer. Takes Mega Man and Soccer and puts them into one game.
Really? What else is there to say about this game?
Well, first off, the game that we have is not finished because it doesn't have an ending.
Yes, that is its probably one of its biggest flaws, but I wouldn't go as far as to say it's its number 1 flaw.
Let's see. There's many flaws, like the music doesn't sound like it's from a Mega Man game.
No, it sounds like it's done by a French horn symphony. No, seriously. Like even the music that is obviously even the music that's obviously supposed to be remixed from older Mega Man games, it just too many horns. No thanks, please very much.
Yeah. Then you have the overall gameplay. I mean, it's a soccer game, and it's not even a good soccer game.
That game has gameplay?
The characters move slowly.
I was just smashing my face into the controller and hoping things would happen.
I hate to say it, but I'm not. I had a cousin who played soccer for at least 12 years. Soccer was her life, and to be honest with you, it wasn't mine. I tried it and quit after one game. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm not a jock. I don't like sports, but I guess this is kind of one of those things where maybe if I had a greater background of soccer, I might be able to enjoy it. But then again, no. I mean, I've played other sports games, and
this isn't a good sports game.
Yeah, it's not a good sports game, and it's not a good Mega Man game. Honestly, this is like the Mega Man equivalency of like Shaq Fu. It kind of falls. It kind of falls right into that sort of no man's land where it manages to try to appeal to Mega Man fans and try to appeal to soccer fans, hoping that it'll introduce one or the other. I mean, maybe if it was like backed by like the, I don't know, what are the what's the big soccer people's name? Like
FIFA?
I know the NBA, basketball. Okay, yeah, FIFA. If it had been backed by them, or if it had been backed by, really anybody official, then I would have said, hey, okay, well, at least they were trying, kind of like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. If it had been like one of those officially endorsed video games, but instead it's just kind of like Dr. Wily's trying to take over the world through seriously, who... I mean, okay, Wily plots are never high on brain power. It's kind of like
Eggman plots.
They are like Eggman plots. I mean, some of Eggman's plots, I think, have been, I'm going to take over the world through. Hold on a second. Let's spin the roulette and see what I ended up. All right, beans. I'm going to take over the world with beans. Well, they're robot beans. Okay. All right.
And then Wily comes along and decides he wants to orchestrate a giant soccer tournament, which will somehow culminate in his grand taking over of the world.
Let's mass produce the Robot Masters. All right, sweet. Wait, why don't you do this for your other takeovers, Wily? Well, I had a lot of money when I was deciding to do this plan, and I said to myself, what if I took all of these billions of dollars that I stole from the banks around the world, and a world of robots. But then I saw a soccer game on TV and said, well, this looks pretty interesting, so, I'm going to take over the world with a world of soccer robots. And I said, this is honestly like the worst video game I've ever played. This is going on the list of the 10 worst Mega Man games, if we ever make one. And we did, and that's where it is. Ladies and gentlemen, Mega Man Soccer, number 2, worst Mega Man game of all time, and somehow it still manages to not even be able to grace the next game in our list.
Before we move on to that, though, I must commend you for possibly the greatest Wily performance ever. Bravo.
Oh,
bravo. Oh, God, that was great.
Was it really that good? I just did that kind of spur of the moment.
That was awesome. Congratulations. Okay. All right, that's definitely staying. That's staying in.
I guess I have to step up and take a bow or something. You know what? Come to think of it, I don't think I have ever done a Dr. Wily impersonation. I mean,
that was a spot-on Ruby Spears. That was great.
Thank you. Actually, saddest part is, in my mind, I was visualizing Wish Upon a Star Wily while saying that. And Ruby Spears just kind of sort of fell out of my mouth.
And finally, number 1 on our list of top 10 worst Mega Man games ever.
It's a unanimous decision, I should interject.
Yeah, it was a tough one. Honestly, the one that we chose for the number 4 slot almost made number 1, but we feel that overall, this game was such a huge dropped ball of, it tried to be really good from the beginning, but it failed miserably. We're talking
This
about...
is the crash and burn of Mega Man games.
We are talking about the first Mega Man game to be played, the first series timeline game to be played in 3D. We're talking about Mega Man X7.
What is there to say about Mega Man X7 that hasn't already been said before and by others far more eloquent than us? And yet, no matter how many times we cover the subject, this is the only Mega Man game I think I've played that I could not beat without cheating. I hate saying that. It's humiliating having to say that because this game is demanding. Oh, is this game demanding? This game tears your fingers off when you pick up the controller. It's like you can feel the animosity and hate seeping out of this game, and it's trying to kill you. This game is trying to kill the player.
This is one of those games that takes a delicious-looking apple, injects it completely full of enough venom to kill 12 elephants, and plops it down in front of you in disc format and says, here you go, you're going to love this. It's got Axel.
And when we picked up Mega Man X7, we didn't even know who Axel was. I mean, the first time I saw Axel, I'm thinking, that guy kind of looks complicated. He doesn't look like a Mega Man character. He's got too much stuff on him.
No, Axel looks exactly like a fan character. Axel
He does.
has all the traits of fan characters.
Axel is, unfortunately, also like a predecessor to characters who will come later after him who have that same trait. A more recent example, unfortunately, going back to a game mentioned earlier in this conversation, would be this recent quote-unquote next-gen Sonic the Hedgehog game, Silver the Hedgehog, who I believe we have made sufficient fun of.
Bolly Pepper!
Swings and roundabouts, where are my Watsits? That's Silver the Hedgehog. The very same. That character looks like a fan character. He looks kind of like... I mean, how many characters have you... I know we all started out as newbies, but how many fan characters have you seen in Mega Man works or derivative works? And it's kind of like... it's the standard issue... they take the words Mary Sue or Gary Stu and they take them to like a whole new level. You've got this... my name is... insert random cool sounding name. My name is Blade EX, and I am a fire sword element Navi. I'm fast. I'm faster than Quickman. I stop time better than Flashman. I am smarter than Proto Man. I've got a sharper sword than Swordman. I'm stronger than Base. I'm the ultimate net Navi. I've got 35,000 hit points, and I'm red, too. And you hear these characters...
And my operator's an 11-year-old kid from the wrong side of town who's so badass that not even the officials want to touch him.
He's got Chaude Blaze quaking in his boots.
Oh, yeah.
You hear those kinds of things, and he's like, you're thinking to yourself, oh, man. How many God Motor fan characters have we seen where we go, oh man, that character is, he tries to be the greatest thing. I mean, honestly, an original fan character... He tries to be
the guy, but he's not old enough.
No, he's not. And, Axel is one of those characters.
Axel is exactly one of those characters, 100%.
He's a newbie. He's got an overhyped power, being able to shapeshift. Which, although that's basically useless in gameplay, so you kind of let it slide, stop and think about it. He can shapeshift. That's like Mega Man's weapon copy, which is already overpowered enough as it is, but taken to like a whole new level. He can be whoever he wants to be. That's absurd.
Only problem is that he can't be boss characters, or even the most mighty of robots ever, the Matul.
No. But he can, he can be... a boss character when it's convenient for him to be a boss character in Mega Man X Command Mission.
Yeah.
But he can be boss characters in Mega Man X8, but not Mega Man X7. That was out of the... Well, he can transform into Red when it's time for a big climactic fight scene at the end there.
Spoilers!
You know what? I don't think anybody cares enough about X7.
I don't care. Go right ahead.
If they want to see the ending, they'll watch it on YouTube.
Yeah, God forbid they should actually play through it. I wouldn't, and I've done it.
I did, and I was stuck on that. When I bought Mega Man X7, I bought Mega Man X7, seriously, like a month after it came out. Do you know when I beat Mega Man X7?
Like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, seriously. I beat Mega Man... Well, I can tell you this, I beat Mega Man X7... between the recording of the Last Die Laser Beams column, because I've been working on Mega Man X7 for years. Seriously, literally years.
What was your big hang-up?
My big hang-up is freaking Red. The big hang-up was freaking Red, because freaking Red freaking cheats. And, oh man,
Red
the problem I had with Red is, everybody said, use X or 0. Well, really? Why didn't I think of that? Except for the problem that the game doesn't start you with X. It's a Mega Man game, and you don't get to play as Mega Man. It's Sonic Adventure 2! You're sitting there going, wow, this is great. I get to play as the other guy. Okay, well, I'm thinking Axel's going to be more useful. See, because this is the logical thing that was in my head. I played Mega Man at base, and I said to myself, well, Mega Man at base should be called Base with Mega Man 2. And that's, honestly, I was thinking with X7, you know, okay, Base was the super useful character in Mega Man at base, so Mega Man X7, Axel's got to be the guy, because Mega Man and Zero have been in 6 games already. So Beef Axel, they start you off with him, they must want you to use him.
Oh, that's the thing, is that they want you to use him. And then you actually
do. They use him.
And you're like, so wow.
Once you get X and you can actually upgrade X, you've already poured all of your resources into Axel, who's a joke. Axel is a joke. And
you know those
Zero
handy little pistols that he carries around? You know what his pistols are made out of? His pistols, besides that, they're made out of the exact same stuff that Mega Man's little plasma arm cannon was made out of in Mega Man 1. It's made out of that.
And by that you mean they do like no damage to anything, and they just basically shoot different shaped energies?
And by that I mean crap.
Oh, you've got the ray gun. Oh, that's classic. You've got the useless ray gun, which I think that's the only advantage to that thing is you can stay behind a wall and snipe at garbage with it. That's cool. Okay, you want to know what else would be cool? A gun that actually does damage. Ooh, burn! Then you've got the twin guns, which lets you shoot 2 guns at once, meaning you can kind of sort of maybe focus on different targets. Like those bats, those bloody bats that are always trying to kill you. Every video game ever has bats trying to kill you, whether it's Pokemon with those dang Golbats, or whether it's Mega Man, or whether it's Sonic. There's a bat that's trying to kill you and take your Master Emerald. Doesn't matter what game you're playing, there's going to be a bat in it, and it's going to be trying to kill you. Bats are not your friend.
And it doesn't help that these ones are like in another dimension of in a completely different dimension. You're in 2 dimensions, and they're flying in at your head from a third that you can't access.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh, wow. You finally get a game where you can shoot up, and it doesn't do anything to help you. Because now you need to be able to shoot towards the screen. It's like, oh,
you need to be able to shoot towards the
wow.
back of the TV.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, you've got all of the enemies in that game are really cheap, and they take like 1,000,000 hits to kill. I mean, Mega Man X enemies have always been notoriously more durable than classic series enemies. I mean, you know, you put a few rounds in and even the toughest enemy in a classic game, and even those mini-bosses you can kill with 4 or 5 charge shots. No, not the X enemies. You know, you got X enemies like that stupid walker thing that shoots the missiles and the electrified stuff in the first X game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I hate those stupid things. But even those you can kill with a double helix buster. You turn around and you play X7, and you gotta basically dump, like, a gun store full of ammo into these enemies to kill them off. And, it's like that, those stupid stone faces in Soldier Stone Kong's stage.
Yeah.
And then the remixes of those in the Snipe Anteater stage. Oh, I hate those things. Those things are... they're gah. You play this game, and you pick up these weapons, which don't do anything. Like we said, Axel's ray gun is useless. His twin guns are somehow pellet gunized, where they do virtually no damage. His main gun's a piece of junk. The only gun Axel has worth mention is his bazooka, which has, while it has a really good range and it does some serious damage, that thing was the only way I was even remotely able to pick off Red. You want to know what and I still had to cheat to fight him anyway, so it's not like it was a legitimate victory.
Right.
But that gun, the only problem with it is it's got a refresh rate of like a minute and a half. Fire one shot, and then you basically got to like go ask to borrow Snake's cardboard box, and then come back, and you're like, all right, is my shot off the screen? No, it's still over there. All right, well, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes. And it's like, you know, I don't know. That game is horrible. What do you have to say about X7 Break?
Well, you combine the ridiculously... The enemies are harder than they should be, and, you know, you can chalk that up to just, like, the game's developers expecting you to be able to function completely in this, like, 2.5-dimensional environment, which just doesn't work. I mean, they tried to make the switch from 3D gameplay to 2D gameplay seamless, but it's anything but. I mean, the stage layouts are, for the most part, horrible. Stages that actually have you go from 2D to 3D on the fly, it just feels very awkward and forced, and...
The loading are absurd.
No joke. And you compare that side by side with X8, and it's laughable. It's pathetic.
You play X8, and the GUI is beautiful. The music is beautiful. The character models are awesome. The gameplay is incredible. It feels solid. It's like the first solid Mega Man X game you've played since like Mega Man X4. The engine runs smoothly. The game runs smoothly. X8, honestly, I mean, you know what? I think our next iLaserbeams column is going to be a follow-up piece to this, and it's going to be the 10 best Mega Man games
and
ever.
X8 is going to be on that list.
X8 is going to be on that list, and you want to know what? X8 is probably going to be in the top 5, along with Dash 2, and EXE2, and EXE3, and Mega Man 2, where it rightfully belongs, because X8 is a work of art, but X7 is an insult. X7 is like a punch in the teeth with a pair of brass knuckles wrapped around a brick covered in barbed wire and acid. I'd rather have a buffalo take a diarrhea dump in my ear than play X7.
Thanks, AVGN.
Where's my rolling rock? Where's my Rockman roll?
That's it.
Rockman roll.
We've seen that game already, but it was called Rockman.
Unfortunately, yes.
But seriously, X7 just horrible play controls, horrible level designs, uninspired character designs, collision detection that doesn't exist. Like, you're the broadside of a barn, and the enemy is a slingshot. Seriously. That's how that game works, and it's just horrible. It's not fun. If you force yourself to play through and get all 3 endings and max out your characters, you are one dedicated fool. I'm one of them, so I have the right to say that.
And you want to know what? Break, honestly, you played and you maxed X7. Did you feel like a sense of accomplishment for doing so?
No.
You felt like you wasted your time on a crappy game, didn't you?
Yes. I got no sense of pride from finishing that game. Completing that game was a chore. And honestly, I'm really not happy that I did. If I had to go back and do it all over again, I wouldn't.
Well, it's like when you consider the Battle Network games, and you consider maxing your stuff out, no matter where you are in a Battle Network game, unless you've used, like, 300 dark chips or something, no matter where you are in the average, especially in the earlier ones anyway, unless, like, the game has been sharked or something, and you've got, like, 99 of each giga chip, or something stupid along those lines, something irreparable that you can't, like, go and shove those in a trader or whatever, assuming that nothing really unusual has happened, you can pick up any Battle Network game and complete it easily from wherever it is. With Mega Man X7, you can actually, like, wall yourself in that game. It's not kind of like, you can't find, really, in X7, it's not like the game can be in any stage of incompletion, and you can walk over and say, oh, alright, well, this guy hasn't gotten the upgrades for Axel, but he's gotten all the upgrades for Zero. Okay, well, I'll just go get Axel's upgrades. No. Because, unfortunately, it suffers from, if you do this, then you can't do this later itis, which should never work in a Mega Man game. It should be kind of like, no matter where you are, you can complete the game. Mega Man X7 doesn't give you that option.
No.
Even Mega Man X8, you can, if you spend your what are they called? Chips?
Metals,
if you spend your
whatever.
chips... Yeah, metals or whatever. If you spend your money basically on one of the other characters, it's not like that's a permanent choice that you decided to make, because you can still go back and just earn up some more money and upgrade one of the other characters. It's a state of incompletion that you can bounce back from. X7 isn't that way. X7, you put that life up into Axel, that means that's one less life up for you to put into X. This should not be, and if you try to level all of them equally, which if you do, then you're really dedicated, that basically means that you have to either rescue the Reploids as Axel and Zero and then get X and then fight the Mavericks, or do what the average person does, fight the 4 Reploid bosses and beat them to get X, and then start working on him. But the problem is, either way, you're going to be forced to either blow past those Reploids, which, if you do, you run a risk of them dying, or you have to collect their power-ups, which are just going to end up being distributed to Axel and Zero. The only real way, unfortunately, with X7 for you to level everybody and have them all turn out exactly equally is to unlock X from the start, and with a password or action replay or something, and then once again you're cheating. Or your alternative is to beat the game through. And isn't it that if you beat X7 once, you can start with X on a fresh copy?
Yes, that is true.
Well, then in that case, why would you want to beat X7 more than once? What's the point in that?
That's the innate problem, is that it's such a horrible game. Unless you are, like we said, sincerely, truly dedicated, no sane person would do that.
And that is why X7 landed the spot as the #1 worst Mega Man game of all time, because it's a horrible game.
It is.
It's difficult. It's unpolished. The character models look like trash. The music is
irritating at best.
Yeah, it's not noteworthy. It's not like you can pick out songs from X7 and be like, man, I love that song, it's a good, memorable tune. No, they all sound lackluster. The voice acting in that game is, oh man, oh wow. You listen to X8 and those character voices sound great. You listen to X7 and it's kind of like, well, if it isn't my good friend Red. And you're sitting there going, Axel sounds like he rolled off of a turnip truck and got hit by a car. I mean, Axel sounds like he's been hit by 3 cars. And he doesn't sound like... You listen to Axel later, and he's kind of like, sounds great, let's go, X. And, no, in the first one, he sounds like this...
whiny, backwoods kid.
Yeah, he honestly sounds like... I don't know, I mean, you're half expecting Axel to say something along the lines of, I like shorts. They're comfy and easy to wear.
No, seriously, though.
Really. And you want to run from that game. You really do. You want to... I played X7. I honestly, and this is truth, and I have no shame in saying this. I played X7. I beat it. I beat Axel's storyline and got his ending. I put it back on the shelf. I have not put that disc in my PlayStation 2 since that day. And you know what? Truthfully, I probably never will again. I may start a new game one of these days when I'm feeling particularly masochistic. But, I'm saying, say, between now, today, and never, there's probably a slim chance of that happening. I would probably say the chance of me ever deciding to play X7 again and beat it all the way through and get everything, honestly, is probably roughly similar to, I don't know, the chance of us getting a -5.
Wow. That's a bold statement. But, honestly, I agree with you. I've beaten X7 all the way through. I'm not going to play it again. The only reason I would play it again is on a dare. That would probably involve me being not in my right mind in the first place.
I was just going to say that would involve a lot of alcohol and a lot of money.
Seriously.
With the Mega Man series, there are a lot of good games, but that wasn't what tonight's article was about. Maybe, you know, like I said, maybe on our next ELB we'll talk about the 10 best, and we probably will. For the next ELB, plan on hearing what our opinion is of the 10 best Battle Network games. We've already mentioned several that we like.
Oh, yes.
You know, the Dash series, we've mentioned X8, obviously, multiple times. We've mentioned EXE2, EXE3, EXE5. You know, there are good games, but it's like... And rest assured, there are good things about all of the games on these lists, too. I mean, you know, obviously, the original Mega Man is the original Mega Man. You can't take that away from it. Star Force is still in the budding stages, and as much as I want to bash on it, I realize I can't. I mean, Star Force gave us Ophiuchus Queen, who's awesome. It gave us Harp Note, who's awesome. It gave us good music and a good, appealing design. The problem is, honestly, I think Star Force was just a step in an unnecessary direction. It can't... Star Force is unfortunately trying to be something it's not, and it's like the Zero series. Beautiful looking games, beautiful sounding games, but when you try to play them, you're just going to walk away with bruised thumbs and a bruised ego. And unless you're dedicated...
That's really the problem with just about all of these games, is that they tried to be something so much more than what they ended up being. And the really sad thing is that the developers didn't realize this at the time and save everybody from a lot of grief.
Well, it's one thing to play a difficult game. I know people who like playing difficult games, but I mean, this is kind of like, you know, there's the difference between difficulty, and I think we covered this in an ELB rant long ago, but the difference between fake and genuine difficulty is, it's just something that it can make or break a game. A good game that's hard but good, look at Mega Man 2. You mentioned Mega Man in Japanese or American circles. Pretty much everybody remembers and has played Mega Man 2. It's got some of the most memorable tunes. It's got some of the most memorable characters.
It's just an overall one of the most memorable games.
Yeah, not only one of the most memorable Mega Man games, it generally... Mega Man 2 manages to land spots on like top 10 lists of the best video games of all time. On the best classic video games, side-scrolling games, Capcom games, you name it. There are tons of people who love Mega Man 2. It's a popular, it was a bestseller, it's a good game. It's just a good overall, well-rounded game. It was hard. Mega Man 2 was difficult. Wasn't easy, but Mega Man 2 knew its limits, and it's a game that I still sit down to this day, and I play Mega Man 2, and I'm like, oh man, I should have been able to make that jump, or oh man, I should have been able to do this or do that, and that's like, well, you know, I'll be able to get it on the next.
That's the point, though, is that you can look at that and see, you know what, I can do that. You don't look at it and you're like, this is freaking impossible.
Yeah, you don't look at it and you're kind of like, alright, I made it to the door. What did I do? I didn't do... Oh, that bat killed me. Oh, okay.
Here we go with the bats.
Because I can't shoot towards the screen.
Oh, that's so depressing.
Admit it. You've thrown controllers on the ground. You've bit cords. You've vented your frustration on video games before. There are hard games.
But the ones on this list, seriously, are most of the ones that's happened to.
They're not hard in a good way.
No.
They're hard in a I want to rip my hair out way.
Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us blunder through another ELB.
Such is life. That seems to happen every single time. We've honestly have had so many problems recording this that it'll be a wonder if we even have anything to work with. It's basically going to end up as 30 minutes of, this is number 10 on the list. It sucks. This is number 5 on the list. It also sucks. See you next time. Seriously.
All I can say is this column is going to have one heck of an outtake reel.
Be on the lookout for it. Other than that, any parting thoughts? Oh yes, we do, of course. I'm sure you know about the. Well, of course you know about the new iLaserbeam's blogspot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this right now. And I believe we now have an email address that you can reach us at with questions, comments, flamings, praisings, whatever.
Yes, you can reach us at ilazorbeams@gmail.com, and spelled just like the URL, EYELAZORBEAMS@gmail.com. And, yeah, you can direct any thoughts you have towards there. As you know, Rock Band Synergy closed down recently, and I would like to address in this column, just as a kind of a quick footnote, no, it will not be reopening. Rock Band Synergy is closed primarily due to a lot of personal reasons, and honestly because I really just didn't have the ability to maintain the website anymore, and I felt like it deserved better than what it was getting, so that's why a lot of the staff members have broken off and started their own sub-sites, some of which are hosted by Rock Band Synergy, and some of which are hosted on other websites, but again, I want to thank all the staff members for all of the service and all of the hard work they put into the community, and to the people that really tried to build it up and make it what it was when it was at its peak, I really do thank you. For the people who tried to tear it down, then all I have to say to you is that,
I hope
what goes around comes. Yeah, you got what you wanted. Our website's closed. Okay, you won. That's it. And honestly, okay, I've wronged a lot of people. A lot of people have wronged me. I look at it as it's a wash. At the end of the day, I can lay my head down at night and say, you know what, I've made a lot of mistakes, but I'm still trying. So as long as that's what you can do, as long as you can lay your head down at night and sleep well, then I guess whatever you do is on you.
So, all in all, thanks for the ongoing support. We're sorry it ended out like that, but, that's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, thanks for a good run, and check out our affiliates, check out the Flashman EXE network, check out our future columns. We're going to be posting a lot of archive data, written work, as well as columns and such, so both audio and text. You never know what'll pop up on ELB. And not only that, we do have one really, really huge surprise for you planned in the month of March. We can't really reveal a whole lot of detail about it yet because it's kind of still under wraps.
Yeah, we're still working out the details, but let me just say this, is that we do promise is that it's going to be ELB event of epic proportions.
Yeah. So, be looking forward to that. Expect some interesting developments around the site. You never know what could happen.
Well, that teaser delivered and outro spoken. I think it's time to bring this to a close. Thanks again for being with us tonight and listening to our rants of insanity. And we hope to we hope that you tune in with us next time.
Awesome. This is Flashman EXE signing out.
This is Breakman, signing out. Thanks for listening.